What's up, ladies, gentlemen, everyone tuning in, and welcome to the FATED ARPG podcast, episode 136. As always, I'm your host, Catmaster. This podcast is blessed to have the support of community and audience, and as a special thanks, all the Twitch subs, YouTube members, and patrons will be shown in their names in the outro credits roll. And of course, also as always, we're joined by the co-host at Baylor Mage. How are you doing?
Hello. Fantastic now. Had some gastro problems. Had to take a few days off, but good now.
What?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see that. I saw you stream.
Yeah, I took 2 whole days off.
Ooh, okay. Damn. But feeling better now.
Yeah, much better.
Well, then we're also ready to say hi to our guests before we go into any juicy details. Welcome with us, sirgog. How are you doing?
I'm alright, yourself?
Pretty okay. And we also are blessed to have another person join us. And it almost wouldn't work out, but it did work out. Welcome, TalkativeTri. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. No gastro problems, so better than Baylor Mage this week. But it's been a fun week so far, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to wish that on anyone.
Truly, no.
Well, since we haven't seen you in a while, let's just start with you. Tell us a little bit about your league start. How have things been going for you?
Well, as my tag says, I am a resident Melee enjoyer. Lots of people are saying Melee is impossible to play, can't do it, no way it's going to happen. I league started Melee. Volcanic Fissure of Snaking. Didn't start with any other skill. Went right into that when I could at level 50. Went into maps, changed around a few things, and I'm in T17s now. I actually cleared my first one on Monday night. Quite fun. I died on my 6th portal, so I'm not saying it's a hardcore build that I'm doing here. Definitely taking all 6 portals, but it's been a really fun time.
I mean, it's more tier 17 viable than what I got so far, because I tried 2 tier 17s and failed both.
Even with your headhunter? Really?
No, I just made that today.
Oh, you just got it. Okay.
I don't know how much the headhunter is honestly going to help with the tier 17 maps.
True. I've seen some cracked strategies using shrines and everything to just super buff your character.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I did on the 2nd attempt. Like, so first attempt, I just went in. I was like, well, it can't be that hard, right? This is maybe just a little bit harder than a tier 16. And then what I've gathered from other people is that the real difficult part is the clearing the map, right? That the bosses are kind of undertuned is what I heard. But then I went into the Katarina map, like I think it's Ziggurat is the one, right? And it turns out the Katarina is like one of the harder boss fights, and I didn't quite get it done because the build is either not, it doesn't have enough recovery or enough damage to end the fight swiftly. But it was fun, a learning experience. So I bricked my first one, and then second one I was like, well, let's do the shrine stuff and buff that up. And yeah, I mean, I just went in with all the shrine buffs and died in the middle of the fight, and then all the shrine buffs are gone. I think the same thing is going to happen with the headhunter. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, but my league start's been great. How's everybody else's? sirgog, maybe?
Yeah, so I missed the first couple of days of the league just because of the whole Easter thing. It's like the only 4-day long weekend nationally in Australia, so I was catching up with friends that have moved interstate over the years. So that was long planned, and it meant that days 1, 2, and most of 3 I missed. Given that, I thought I'll start with something that's fun rather than something that's particularly explosive, and started with something that was the Chieftain RF set up but with a different take on it that's more focused on defensive through armor rather than Fizz taken as X. And it's a pretty solid setup, but it's not really well set for tier 17s or really for even medium bossing, much less heavy bossing. So I've done 2 17s, but they've been very difficult. Well, one of them wasn't. One was complete cheese. One was like demonstrating that Einhar thing.
God.
But yeah, like, so the other one was really, really, really ridiculous. Anyways, otherwise though, I've been deliberately testing out a couple of things that aren't common choices. So I've decided, right, this is the league I'm going to test out Replica Headhunter because it's a budget item now. I was like, okay, it's never made it as
regular Headhunter's a budget item now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, yeah. But that was sort of just happening as I was doing this test. Like, I think when I picked up Replica Headhunter, the OG was still 35 divs,
Right.
and the Replica was 3 at that point. Now,
Ooh.
obviously, the Replica is weaker than the OG by a lot, but you're not really comparing it to that. You're comparing it to a 300C Stygian. Well, 200C Stygian plus 100C Abyss Jewel. And on that, I actually think it's better. I do think it's really good at its current price, but now that the real deal is so much more accessible, that's the obvious.
Slightly interesting. Did you know you can stack the inspired learning with that?
Yeah, you can.
Whereas you can't with a regular headhunter, but with the alt one you can. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Thank you.
IL is a lot weaker than IL does have something it does something useful, but it requires a fair bit. It's a dual socket, which is a big cost now. And then usually you're probably wasting 3 of the passives that you're feeding in as well. So essentially it's costing you 5 passive points to, assuming it's 2-point dual, plus the asset that is a dual socket. It's a fair cost. It definitely has a payoff if you build around it. But I don't think IL fits into every build. That said, it's real cheap now, isn't it?
Yeah, it fits into bow builds for free.
That's true, yeah.
That's what I normally end up using it on. You're like, I already take 5 nodes here. It is just the dual socket.
Yeah. There's also the North Witch slot. Usually you can get it for, it's pretty cheap to fit there. That said, IL's only 20C if people want to try it out.
I feel like I might be cheating because I spent 2 full days just farming tier 17 maps on that.
Oh my god.
Holy Relic build. It just breezes through all of them. I'm getting levels. I'm getting experience while farming tier 17.
Positive net experience.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm actually going to play that next. Maybe not immediately next, but second to next.
I did kill my Animate Guardian twice. And that cost me, 6 to 8 div to replace every time. But if you can farm tier 17s at speed, you're making way more than enough money to afford to replace an occasional Animate Guardian. It's fine.
That's been my only money drop this league. I got a 21-23 Animate Guardian randomly dropped.
Ooh.
Sold it for like 4.5 div. It's beautiful.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm cheating. That build's... I don't want to say it's overpowered because I don't want them to nerf it. Can we just...
You want them to nerf it. You just don't want to be blamed for it.
No, I don't want them to nerf it at all. I want a league started next league.
Yeah.
I've seen Gazzy's YouTube videos are like, they will nerf Holy Relic. Like, that's the title.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah, don't say
Past
that.
week. That's not me.
Look, we'll try and convince GGG that the numbers it says in Path of Building are the real numbers. And then we can just be like, see, look, it's fine. Perfectly balanced. It's actually a little bit weak, if anything. It's actually quite weak if you just read the Path of Building numbers.
So have you managed to account for the discrepancy between the Path of Building numbers and the actual performance?
I know why. It doesn't... Path of Building and every other version of information we have doesn't have any of the base damage or any of the scaling correct.
Yeah.
So at level 1, it's 10% weaker than it is in-game. At level 20, it's about 45% weaker than it is in-game. And at level 21, it's about 50% weaker than it is in-game. And then I can't find any numbers of the scaling past then, but I assume that gap keeps getting worse and worse. So the Path of Building and PoEDB and every bit of information we have doesn't have any of the numbers. So it's been a build where I just have to play a bunch and go, yep, that feels better.
That's
which
how
is
I
my
play.
favorite. I love
That's
that.
the
That's
best
the
way to
best
play.
way. Yeah.
I tried Path of Building this league. I really did. Lasted about 2 days. And then I dropped it. I couldn't do it. I really tried. I don't know
It's
what
so
to
good
say.
for random decisions. If you're like, oh, would I get this or that in my build? And you just load the build and you see, is this an improvement or not? You don't even need accurate numbers, just like a comparison. Is this a step up or a step backwards?
It's unless I'm making a build guide, the only time I usually open Path of Building is when I'm thinking just like, I'm going to have 3 points to spend. Do I want these 3 or these 3? to give slightly different things. Which one would be better?
I use a lot.
Open it up and I quickly check and I'm like, that one will give me 13%. That one will give me 14.5. Sweet. I'll go that way. And then that's it. I close it. I'm like, that's all I use it for.
I think it's because at work I work with a lot of data dashboards and spreadsheets and stuff like that. So when I open up POB and I see those tabs, I almost check out. So that's why I just do everything in game, and I take that sacrifice because I don't calculate it in Path of Building. I use PoE Ninja. I'll look at my DPS and stuff on PoE Ninja and my effective HP. I don't know how accurate that is, but I use it as like a North Star. Yeah, I know. So, and then I just,
actually, speaking Ninja, I was chatting to some of the people that program it last night, and a couple of things that they're working on at the moment that should be quite good. They reached out to me to ask how to address the fact that detonate data chain reaction Inquisitor builds, the ones that have a multiple trigger based on cast and critical strikes. So you have Lancing Steel Spraying linked to detonate data chain reaction and also desecrate with 3 supports. That doesn't come up on their 5+ link skills. And so they were looking for suggestions as to how to fix that and how to categorize them. And I had a couple of ideas that hopefully we'll see over the next little while.
It was a good video. I always enjoy those to see what other people are playing, see what the meta is. The top, the league start meta for SSF and trade sirgog. Those are awesome.
I love looking at how things change as the meta evolves. Like Baylor's video on Holy Relic is something I think is going to change that meta. And I'm really interested to see how much that skill spikes in popularity.
Are you going to do like a 30-day?
A lot already.
Yeah.
I bought the gems for 6C a piece, and I bought enough to level like 3 offhands worth because I was like, I just want to pump it up until I get 21, 23s. And then by the time I had leveled 3 sets, which was only a day and a half, I went to buy them again, and they were 180 chaos each just for unleveled gems. And I was like, well, there was like several hundred when I bought just enough for 3 offhands.
Yeah.
Like I should have bought a ton of them.
Wow.
I know I bought something like 4 or 5 of the Holy Relic helmet with unusual implicits, like 15% aura effect that started life as Glimpse of Chaos.
Yeah. Oh god.
And also great crowns with +2 socketed minions, but not ones that have been mythicked into the helmet. They went from widely available for trash prices till last time I looked, there were 2 divines. And not really available either.
And I made a degenerate weapon, like a way too expensive weapon, like an average cost to craft 200-ish divines weapon.
In the graveyard?
Just to fit in an extra ghastly jewel. That's all it is. And I kept saying, this is a degenerate thing you do not need to do. You absolutely do not need to do this. And then every day, like 10 new people link me weapons they've made for like 200 div, and I'm like, no, it's so excessive. It's so excessive if everyone's wasting their money.
So have you spiked hollow fossils with that?
What was that?
Have you spiked the price of hollow fossils since I last looked?
And fracture orbs. We also pretty much single-handedly nearly 40% increased the veiled chaos orb price within like 6 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Because we have to burn an average of like 40 of them to get this weapon. And
40.
40.
Yeah.
That's the 200
like
divine.
I said, it's absolutely overkill, unneeded.
Yeah.
It's not, you do not need to be copying this min-max shit that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Are you not missing the regular gem socket now? Couldn't you have done something with that?
Yeah, but it was just convocate. All I really needed was the offering desecrate in my trigger. I didn't need a third trigger skill, so...
Mm.
And it's like a cascading effect. Getting an extra abyss socket let me put 1 regular jewel in my tree. And that let me get 2 mana on hit on a jewel and corrupting blood immune. Which is something 2 things I didn't have before. So it solved my mana and gave me corrupting blood immune. Because I was corrupting blood immune, I could then tattoo being bleed immune and remove my life flask, because that was the only reason to have it. And so now I've got an extra flask, permanent corrupting blood immune, permanent bleed immune, and I can now run every map mod instead of every map mod except reduced recovery and cannot regen. Right? And so it was like a cascading effect of like, oh, well, getting just this one abyss socket in my weapon lets me keep poison chance and freeze up this, and then that frees up this, and then that frees up this, and then now my build overall is way better.
I'm a big fan of like this blanket bleed immunity. I mean, I get the budget SSF version by just getting the little cluster in between Witch and Shadow, where I get the CB immunity on the mastery, and I think it's like a total of 60% chance to bleed, to avoid bleed, and then I can get between 30 and 40% chance to bleed avoid on boot implicit, and 10% from a tattoo, and I also got 100%. But obviously, looking to replace the boot with something else. There's other good implicits on that slot.
You're not using automation to cast Steel Skin like I am, you know, every few seconds? No? Nobody? Just me?
No.
No, I like my self-cast Molten Shell too much.
Oh, my.
Self-cast?
Here's my
Ooh.
plus 5,000 hit points when I want them.
That is nice. That is nice.
Mine's not quite that strong.
Like, yeah, I was using Steel Skin for a period, but I was using it as a bleed cleanse, not. And if I want a bleed cleanse, I want it right now. And so that was also self-cast, not automated.
So many buttons. My goodness.
I feel like I'm pressing less than usual. Like,
Yeah.
tasks are automated.
True.
Enduring Cry is automated. Are you
True as
using
well?
I'm not
I am.
using any War Cries at the moment.
Battle Mage's Cry. It's pretty nice. You guys should really try out Melee this league. Just give it a try. You know, Melee. Which is what I'm playing. It's fun. Seriously.
Yeah.
I think
I
I would
do
have
wish-
to be paid to play Melee. Like,
I mean, did anybody here listen or watch snippets of Josh's interview of Jonathan from a few days ago about
Absolutely,
PoE2?
yes,
Pieces,
love
yeah.
it.
Jonathan literally said "fuck Melee" in and Melee is shit in the interview, like in PoE1.
Yeah.
Sorry if we can't
Is
swear
it
on
because
the pod,
Melee
but-
is shit? Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's all right. We're 20 minutes in.
Okay,
You can,
okay.
You can say the light swear
We
words.
are? Okay. Yeah, I was like, wow, damn. They better they better put some effort. Even if it's not fixing it, just like, okay, we're not going to nerf Cleave of Rage by X percentage, or we're going to do something with totems. Something has to happen next league to change people's perception.
I was thinking about it because it's actually really quite a hard problem to fix. I think the solution for Melee is increasing attack speed on intrinsic attack speed on weapons substantially, because that's something that doesn't really apply to spellcasters that use a weapon in some way, like Blade Blaster Dagger Detonation.
Yeah.
And it also means it actually addresses Melee's sustain issues somewhat, because it means that if a leech falls off, then you reapply it faster.
How about mana costs associated with Melee skills? What are your thoughts on that? What if they got rid of that so that was one less
feel it
solution?
I feel it maybe needs some more tools there,
Oh, okay.
because that would actually make Melee problems worse. I mean, Melee obviously does have mana leech, but that requires having a certain amount of unreserved
Yes.
mana.
Yep.
Now, everyone's usual reaction is to reserve all their mana. I think it's generally correct to keep maybe 40 or 50 unreserved on a lot of builds, even though a lot of people don't do that currently. Yeah.
Get out of
Three's
here.
my favorite amount.
Get out of here.
What?
3.
You know, like three's by far my favorite amount. You just minus mana cost so much
Oh my
that your
God.
skills cost 1, and then you make your skills cost 1, and then you have 3 mana, so you can miss once and still be fine.
Yeah.
Well, you can be like me. I think I have 4 life tap supports on my build right now. Nobody come at me, but because I have mana
No, that's
problems
fine on
everywhere.
Melee.
Like, yeah. So
I love that
goodness.
for leveling. Like when the gem pressure was a little bit lower, just like put everything on life tap, reserve 100 mana by doing like 150%, 225%. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so comfy.
I just use a mana flask leveling.
Yeah, but then you can't reserve 100%.
Okay?
Yeah, it's such a curious problem. I really want to see how they go at it. I'm curious to see, because Mark did also say, "Hey, we're gonna take a stab at it in 3.25."
Would,
So
would,
we'll see.
would you like my little cheese leveling thing? Really, really cheap. You get a Watcher's Eye that just has clarity minus mana and one of those minus mana rings.
Mm.
Oh yeah, Praxis makes perfect.
Yeah, one Paraxis, preferably a corrupted one that has like something cool on it, like a level 23 anger or whatever it is, and then one Clarity Watcher's Eye, and then you just minus like 18 spell cost or something, and you're like, problem solved for leveling. Bye.
Yeah, I might level a second build this league. I kind of want to try out Mana Hierophant, maybe with like Arc or Lightning Conduit of the Heavens. That looks really fun.
LCOTH is definitely something I want to get around to at some point.
Yeah, I might try that out after I get 100 on this melee character. So
100 on an melee character. Wow.
Oh, it's gonna, dude. The Abyss strat. Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah.
Those Domination Scarabs. I bought those out right before your video came out on the Abyss Domination strategy, and then like a day later, Zizarin also released one on Breach using the Scarabs.
Yeah.
They like went up. I think they were like 3C, and they went up to 20 or something like that. I'm not selling them. Screw that.
The Shrine stuff is kind of like the Shrine one is incredibly strong, and just the Chill Abyss approach is effective as well. Like it's basically every Abyss you run is like a map.
Yeah, it's awesome. Absolutely love it. I went from like 97 to 98 in like 2.5, 3 maps or something. Just blasting, rolling like 100. Yeah, I max rolled them out. And then I had my 5-map device slot and everything with Abyss.
Someone told me earlier that Ben went from like level 70 to 100 within an hour. With
that may have been the day one, like prior to the Domination Domination Scarab of Teachings. So the current effect of those is that for each shrine buff that you have on you that is a full shrine, you get 30% increased XP. The original one included lesser shrines as well, and it was scaled by increases to shrine effect.
Oh, right.
Which means both the league mechanics drop a lesser shrine and also the goal.
Yep.
Yes. And Blunderbore has, I think it's Blunderbore that has 75% increase.
God.
That lasted less than a day, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Like that was one of the first patches. As soon as they saw it, it was just like, because people were going from like 70 to 100 in like 2 hours.
Oh my god, I missed that madness.
And they were just like, fix that. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So they did not scale with shrine effect and only work on real shrines.
Shrines,
that's still very good.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still one of the best Scarabs around for like it's the best way to get XP in maps now, and you can combine it with whatever else you want.
I'm pretty sure it's better than 5 ways, by the way. Like it's actually better XP still right now than getting 5-way rotors.
I'll have to check that
against like spending divines to get carries.
Oh, it's mild
I
better.
presume.
I mean, if you're factoring in cost, though, Nashta Heist is the best way to get XP because that's so loot positive. Right. I think it's like 10C for the unique heist. Each run of it is about 1/8 of the XP that you'd get from a 5-way. I think 5 ways take 5.5 minutes each. So if you can do it in 1 minute and 3/4, which I think most people can, then you're getting sort of 40% the XP of 5 ways, and you're frequently getting that scientist or flaring Oriflamme member because Nashta drops that. That said, Nashta is rippy, like real rippy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like she's basically similar sort of damage profile to the Phoenix, but hits harder, a lot harder.
So that's someone in the chat. Let's attack them. That person in the chat. So obviously this league has had like a ton of hotfixes, but it's still super fun. Do you guys want to talk about all the hotfixes and the insanity that has occurred? Or is that like too spicy of an issue?
Oh, I'm not watching chat at the moment. Can I start by asking chat a question? And I don't want to know the answer to this until after I've stated my position on this. But the top 1% of players, What percentage of direct drops of Calandra's Touch do you think should fall in the hands of four top 1% players? Should it be 1%? Should it be 10%? Should it be 20%? Should it be 60%? Should it be 99%? What percentage of them should fall for that top 1%? I'm not going to look at these answers. I just want to get people's thoughts. And then that is going to be something that when I give my thoughts on all these changes, I'll reference.
Okay.
It's a hard question to answer, though.
I'll type in where I think would be reasonable in our private chat that only those of us on the podcast can see. I'd be happy.
Yeah, chat says repeat the question, please, just to be 100% clear.
Okay. For tier 0 drops that come from monsters, what percentage of them should drop for the top 1% of the player base?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like what percentage of them should drop for, which is probably the top 6,000 or 7,000 players?
I have an answer, but you're not going to like it.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, Baylor and I are going to disagree widely on this, but I think this is going to inform why I generally like a lot of these nerfs that they've done and why Baylor is going to hate them.
I actually love all the nerfs that they've done, but my answer is still 85 to 90%.
And Baylor can see how divergent that is from my answer, even though I think my answer will be higher than some people in chat. I'm sure some people in chat will be saying 1 or 2 or 3%. So I said 20, but
I see 1. I see somebody said 20 right on the money.
Yeah, but when we come to me, that's okay. I wanted to just start with that when we were talking about the nerfs, because that will inform why Baylor and I are going to will often have such different opinions on loot distribution within the game.
And yet, I still agree with all the nerfs that happened to this league. By the way,
wow.
Despite having an opinion on how much I think the 1% should get of the total loot drop, which is somewhere around 80%, because they kill roughly 800 times as many monsters in gear that costs 200 times the amount of your average player. So their amount of mobs that they kill and the quality of the mobs that they kill is multitudes more. So it has to be.
Yeah, even if they were getting 95% of the drops, that's still only 19 times more than the other ones, right? Like 95 is only 19 times 5. So
except that their sample, the size of the population is 99 times smaller.
Sure.
So it's 19 times 99, which would be 1,881 times as efficient their play. If they're getting 95%.
But you mean the very top 1% of players, and then versus the entire other player population?
Versus the entire 99%.
Yeah, and like think how many people of those entire player population are like not even doing high tier maps, not even doing red tier maps or something like that, right?
Oh, that's why I say 20%, not 1.
Yeah. That's the only reason I'm willing to go as low as 80.
What is the best metric? I'm curious. So I'm outside of all the statistics discussion. What is the best way to measure the top 1%? Is it monsters killed? Is it playtime? What do you guys think?
That's a really good question.
So
I'm curious.
There's no.
I have some answers, but they're only based on feelings. And the reason the reason that I answered them this way is because it has to be defined somehow. So when I talk about a casual player, I call that anyone who consistently makes it during the league to tier 16 maps.
Okay. Right? Over the whole
I'm not saying you have to make it there in a day or two. I'm not saying it can't take you weeks. I'm saying you consistently are in tier 16 maps.
Okay.
So that could only be 2 watchstones and it could be a month in. I'm calling that casual because it has to be defined somewhere. And in my mind, anyone under that level of play isn't a casual player. They're a new player. They're still learning. As far as like balancing around the casual or any of those discussions, you have to draw the line somewhere. So from my mind, the people that matter for balance reasons are at least able to get to tier 16 maps. which I don't think is a huge ask. I think that's a lot of people. It should be a lot of people because it's supposed to be the casual, right?
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands now. Like it's you're definitely in tier 16s by the time you hit level 90, and there's like 100,000 people on Ninja that are 90 plus. I think.
Yeah,
I'll just confirm that.
And I think that because like the word like casual doesn't really mean anything, right? Like everyone's gonna have a different definition. So for me, I have to define it somewhere.
I like that.
And in my mind, I go with where's the casual that matters for game balance reasons.
Yeah,
and the returning casual player is able to consistently get to tier 16 maps. The ones that matter for balance reasons, they can get there. That can be 1 or 2 watchstones. That can be a month into the league. Doesn't matter. If you get to tier 16s at some point, casual player. That's the cutoff. If you've never been there, or you haven't, or you've only been there once,
you're not even a player,
and you can't do it again. You're not casual. You're learning. You're a new player still.
You don't count.
You're not a real PoE player. That's right.
Your dice are meaningless.
Baylor, would you say that this is the target audience for the Shaper encounter, where the Shaper is a very difficult fight for these players? They may or may not be able to beat it, but it's like that's okay. I'd term that a casual end gamer, like to separate out from people who are.
I would expect that person to be either able to or able to conceive that they will be able to soon. Be able to kill the Eater, Exarch, Shaper, and Elder fights. Like those are the bosses that that person would be looking at completing.
Okay.
Like they're either able to do that or like close to being like, oh, I might be able to get this league, right? Like they're in that stage. That's my version of casual. Okay. And then there's 2 other things that we call it, or 2 other things that I call it, which is 10% and 1%. Right? I think 10% and 1%, and it's probably not percentage-wise accurate, but for descriptive purposes, it's good. Your entire top 10% in my mind are this league able to comfortably buy a headhunter, right? That you're going to have 30 to 50 div to put into your build at some point over the course of the entire league. This is probably not at all percentage-wise correct, but in my mind, what I've done is anyone below casual isn't counting for balance reasons anymore. Those are new people, right? So I'm only counting now casual and up in my mind. So of that part that's left, I'm saying you're going to have 30 to 50 divines over the course of the league to be able to put into a build. You're going to be able to get a reasonably strong build. You're going to get all 4 watchstones. You might not be able to farm Ubers or able to consistently do your tier 17s. You might not be a degenerate, but you're going to get 4 watchstones. You've got a pretty decent build. Then your 1% who are the degenerate people who do the degenerate things. We're going to have mage bloods. We're going to have whatever, right? Like we're going to have whatever we need. 300, 400, 500 div builds. We're going to do the strategies, the bullshit things. We're going to do MFing things if that's what we want, etc. And then the little like 0.1%ers up the top, which is the bit I've never even made it into, who are the people who farm multiple mirrors a day and are just on an entire different level. There are plenty of them around. There's quite a few of those that make multiple mirrors a day or do strategies that drop themselves, 3 mage bloods on the ground over the course of their 1 12-hour day. Those are like the elite 0.1 people who I've never even made it into that category. Yeah, but I know there are people around that do that. And those are the levels for me. I like those.
I like those levels. There's one big nerf I really want to talk about. It's something that came near the beginning of the league, and I think it affects everybody. It's that devoted modifier nerf to the divine orbs. I've played like 3 days, I guess. I've never seen it. I've never seen anything at that level.
I had my first one today.
So what level of player should be able to see that awesome shit in PoE? Is it only like the 1% who should see this crazy thing? Or should everybody be able to see it? Or because it's so common that 80% can see it, the 1% will abuse it too much? Like, is that like what's going on at GGG? Is that why they nerfed it into Oblivion? Because obviously
the reason they nerfed it was because people were just popping in map after map fishing for that mod specifically.
Why didn't they fix it to make it like the campaign where if you full clear like 80% of a map?
We're all asking that question.
Why did that's so weird, you guys? I can't, because I'm never going to see that mod.
I'm never going to see it because it needed to be nerfed because of how they were fishing for it.
they had to fix it immediately. They had to fix it right now. And that means you can't necessarily do the perfect fix, because while it was the case, like, okay, I got burnt badly on that. I sold all my divine orbs because I didn't think GGG would have the guts to fix it. So I dumped all my divines when they were in the 100, 150, or when they're in the 115 range, because I thought GGG would be like, okay, we're just going to leave this as is. You know, stuff like that happens. That's just the way you're speculative trading. You know, it's like you take a risk, you go burnt sometimes. As I said, my expectation was that they wouldn't fix it. But the key thing was, as long as that remained in, the most rewarding way to play the league was to do something enormously anti-fun. And when that happens, a game designer's absolute job is to completely surgically remove that thing from the game, or nerf it so that it's no longer the best thing to do. And that's
they could have just
why they had to make the emergency fix. And then, they could have come back and done a better fix later. But ultimately, they've been fixing a bunch of other fires that have been put out. I still haven't had the Divine Orb thing, but I think that they've got the Eater of Worlds altars that are 1 in 1200, like to within a rounding error, they're 1 in 1200 to give you Divine Orbs from minions, and also 1 in 1200 to give you Divine Orbs from the map bosses. The rarity on those has been chosen so that, like, if they were to make them, say, 1 in 200 instead, that would be the biggest Divine Orb faucet in the economy. And that would then end up making Divine Orbs.
I would also go back to... I would be back in regular maps, smashing them in under a minute, just skipping everything, looking for clear the altars, didn't find a divine move, clear the altars, didn't find a demise clue, like...
So that's the problem that you've got. Like, you want something to be exciting loot, it has to be rare, or it ceases to be exciting loot. But that's the thing. Like, what items should be exciting loot, and what items should just be mundane stuff you can count on reliably having? That's the hardest thing to try and work out. Because, for instance, you could imagine... I mean, I remember when Sulfite Scarabs were phenomenal drops. Like, they were one of the biggest things around in Betrayal League, because Delve was seen as so lucrative to run. And the only way you could go back in there was paying 80C sometimes for a rusted Sulfite Scarab, just to force Nico on a map. That was something that was annoying as all heck to Delvers, but if you were running Betrayal content, it was fantastic. Now they've decided, okay, we're going to turn Sulfite Scarabs into non-loot, which has its advantages, but also has its drawbacks too.
Oh, so curious. I wonder if they're done with the league. Probably. I presume.
I hope so. Unless something else, like...
I mean...
I
feel like it's in
the expedition.
God,
I didn't even know what was going on.
I got a screenshot from somebody in my Discord about that like 2 weeks ago. They were like, I got a casual mirror and a half. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure you did. And now today I saw it on the front page of Reddit, like it's an actual strategy. So they must have been doing it for a while. Did somebody ask what's going on with Expedition?
Okay, so what happened was there's a Scarab that causes reroll currency to be transformed into logbooks. And there were also ways to just cause an enormous amount of reroll currency to drop on a map. Now, you can do this with Ultimatum as well. There's a Scarab that causes all of the rewards to be converted to Catalysts, and there's another one that multiplies with that. It converts Catalysts into Inscribed Ultimatums. The thing is that with the Inscribed Ultimatum ones, that pathway for Ultimatum is not all that lucrative because the Catalyst thing is so rare. The all Ultimatum loot into Catalyst is a tier 1 rarity Scarab. So that doesn't really have much of an impact on the economy. Whereas the Expedition ones, I don't think any of the components were rare. And this required using the Flaring Kalguran All-Flame member, I think. That was the key thing. You would convert other monsters into Expedition mobs in conjunction with this Scarab, and you'd walk out with like a full inventory of logbooks, apparently.
They said a mirror and a half, apparently. Yeah, that's insane. So,
well, that would take a long time to get a mirror and a half, but
yeah, definitely.
Like, that would be hundreds of maps doing this, but it would be doable.
Oh, it would
Maybe
be.
not
So,
hundreds, maybe dozens.
was he exaggerating? See, I just take people at face value. I shouldn't do that. Bad idea.
Logbooks are worth more early too.
Right.
Factor in.
That's-
They're doing
it
that
was-
early in the league.
It was, yeah. It was like a weekend. So
Mirrors are cheap.
Crazy.
And logbooks are expensive early.
yeah, crazy. Did any of you? Well, did any of us? Would it just be Balor that would have taken advantage of the exile, the rogue exile strat?
No,
Do that?
I didn't.
Good job.
But I
I'm proud
was
of you.
filled with dread when I first found out about it because I was busy doing fun things,
Oh,
and I felt this
know.
overwhelming
Oh,
Urge to
like
do that.
FOMO of like, if I don't re-roll, if I don't stop the fun thing I want to be doing right now, because I know I'm the kind of person capable of being in those maps doing those things, and if I don't go do that thing right now, I'm going to be left behind. I'm going to have no money to do any of the content I want for the rest of the league. I'm going to miss all the drops. I'm going to be priced out of everything. This is the worst. I didn't want to do this league at all. I wanted to play other fun content. I wasn't interested in doing this.
yeah.
And I decided to give it 24 hours and keep real careful eye on the market to decide whether or not I had to abandon all of my plans and be forced into doing this thing that I didn't want to do. And within that 24 hours, the nerf was announced, and I was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to re-roll. I can keep doing whatever I want to do. I'm so happy. Because I was real, like, straight into the, like, oh my God, it's so much better than everything else in existence that it makes every other thing in the game irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like it's literally, it was so good that it made every other thing you could possibly do completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I was just like, if I don't re-roll and go do it, I'm fucked. And then they were like, we're taking that away. And I was like, yay!
And I totally see why they did that for trades reason, but I was a little bit sad when it went away because I was using it in the private league just for the the reason.
you were?
You get the strongest monster gets armor items or weapon items converted to chaos orbs, and just put my rogue exiles on there because it doesn't matter that the rogue exiles all flame was like 200 300 C at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because in private league no one cares.
Do you guys think that it was? I talked to like Gazzy and DM about this. I don't think it was a trade thing. I think they did it because the strain it was putting on the servers. Because I saw some of those maps with the 25,000 monsters in them, and here in the US, I was experiencing crazy lag that first week and a half, unlike I've ever seen in PoE before. Like usually very steady. I don't live in Europe, so I don't have any of those problems, fortunately.
I've
But that
definitely
week
seen
was
people
insane.
say that.
It was crazy. No
Like,
lag after.
The
No
thing
lag.
is, when they've nerfed things for server stability reasons,
They say
they've
it.
said
Ghostbusting.
Right. That's the thing.
they've said that outright.
Yeah.
You're
It
right.
was this
You're right.
this had to be nerfed because it was the strongest farm that I think might have ever existed. And it's lucky that it didn't exist longer. The only thing I wish happened is I wish that they had have done something quicker. I wish that instead of coming up with a solution before fixing it, that they had have just disabled those all flames temporarily immediately. Just gone, excuse me, we're not happy with this. You can no longer use these in a map device while we come up with a solution. And then a day later be like, right, this is the solution. You can now use them again. There you go.
How fast does that sort of stuff get figured out, like by GGG? Because obviously people were abusing it for a few days before, but then it was public that day and it was fixed that night. Right?
I think they should be looking at outlier,
Sometimes.
numbers of drops in maps.
Yeah.
I know they've done that in the past with mirrors because there was a post during Betrayal League where someone got, there's a bargain for currency, and it gives you one, two, or three of a random currency with a bias towards reasonably good ones. Well, someone got 3 mirrors with it, and it made the first page of Reddit, and people actually pinged Chris Wilson to say, is this real? Is this going to completely wreck the entire trade league economy? And Krilson actually came in and said, no, I've reviewed the logs for this. We tend to review extreme outlier events like this, and this was just a miracle.
No
drop.
abuse happened. It just, dude hit the jackpot.
Wow.
Yeah,
Super cool.
yeah. This was like that. It might have been a say I don't know, it might be say 1 in 70 to get divine and up. And then if that's the case, mirror is usually 1,000 times rarer. So 1 in 70,000 to roll mirror, then 1 in 3 to roll that. And so it just ends up being something that is fair because of the rarity of it. And someone just gets that miracle drop. Likewise, there's been an image of someone getting the Harbinger, all shards of the same type, plus everything's a mirror shard.
And they had like a full mirror and then like 18 shards just all in a stack. It was nearly 2 full mirrors. Yeah.
So these sorts of
That
outliers
can happen. That's great.
These outliers should just be investigated as they happen. And then if there's something that's really off, like for instance, if there's 23 players that are each generating 72 logbooks per map that they run, then that's something that should set off an alarm bell and be looked at. On the flip side, though, sometimes there's things that aren't disruptive, but that are just an amazingly good strategy. And that's fine too.
Like last league. Well, the Abyss Spire was kind of disruptive. Right.
Yeah. I mean, last week, some people loved it, but like, I definitely felt like it was just Calandra style loot centralization again.
Man, I feel like you're the snitch now. I always go to your channel when there's something to be found out. Like with the Spires, I remember, I think you were the first one I saw the video about that on.
No, I didn't.
You weren't? No? Oh, like with the private league modifiers.
Stuff at the time.
Oh,
in 323.
Okay.
Which worked, but was eclipsed by the Spire stuff.
Okay. Crazy
like,
stuff.
Yeah, ghosted stuff was good, but ghosted
Not
stuff in 323 was like a normal league. Like it would be a good strategy in a normal league. You walk out of a map with 25 uniques having dropped in it, which is sort of like, I think last league they've upped the drop rate on Headhunter and Mage Blood and stuff this league, but that was like about 1 in 4,000 maps to get a specific T0. So that was reasonable, but there's a very big difference between that and the craziness that happened later when people were getting, what were you? How many Venter's Gambles would you pick up in a map last league, Baylor?
I don't know, 15 a map, maybe?
Yeah, so that's like, that unique is, that means you were like 1 in 100 maps to get a Mage Blood, roughly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, to get
maybe
a direct.
Maybe a little less, actually.
You guys are playing a different game. My God, what? Jesus Christ.
Different game for sure. Like I heard last league, like the top end farmers weren't even looking at belts because looking at belts would lose
the
you
top
money.
Farmers actually hid belts, both Headhunters and Mage Bloods. We just hid them. And the rings.
Because it was more lucrative to just go after the Raw Divine drops and other high value stuff.
Because every second map you'd walk out of with 80 divines, and it would cost you the time of running 4 maps to mouse over every single belt in the map.
Right.
So you would just leave them because looking through belts took too much time.
Yeah.
That's next level.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I never made it to that stage, to be clear. I never turned off belts.
Okay.
And I couldn't have brought myself to do it, even if I was at that level, because it just feels wrong.
Feels wrong, yeah. Yeah.
Right? To turn off Mage Bloods and Headhunters on my filter feels so wrong. There's no world in which I can do that. But it was
leather
the
belts
correct
could
play.
justify turning off this league.
What was that?
I think you could justify turning off leather belts now.
In trade, yes.
In trade, yeah. I'm not going to do it, but
I was going to say.
They could be worth 5 div, and I still don't think I could turn off leather belts. Something feels wrong about it. I just couldn't.
Yep. I know that feeling.
Balor just likes to pick up valuable belts from the ground.
Yeah, I just couldn't. Something just... When I think about the idea of turning leather belts off of my filter, something inside me just goes, oh. And like, I just can't do it.
It's like I always leave Divination Distillate on my filter, no matter what happens, just because it's 1 in 55 to get 1,000 C. At least, I'm not sure what it is this league, but a double max roll on it is 1 in 55, and also 1 off on the rarity is like 300 C usually. So Divination Distillate I always leave on. ID dump on ground.
This is impressive stuff. There's me with my semi-strict filter from NeverSync still on, you know? haven't even gone to the strict filter yet.
I keep telling myself that I need to strictify my item filter, but I'm too lazy to go in and do it again. Because I remember last time when Balor assisted me, like via voice, it took like 10 or 20 minutes, and I need to look out for that VOD and find it and listen to it again, because there was some useful tips in there. But yeah, I'm just scared of going back into the item filter. But yeah, like what you said, Balor, like really resonated with me about all flames for the Rogue Exiles, like having them. It was you, Balor, right? Like they should have been deactivated and like, given us a clear message, like this is the problem that's happening. This is our course of action, or we don't know our course of action yet, but until then we deactivate this. Because we kind of want this to be in the league. I mean, that's why we designed it. Yeah, and I wish they would have done the same with the devoted mods like Seer and the Divine drop related mods, because I don't know, it just feels bad if you see that happening for other people and then it gets nerfed and you're like, oh, I'm never going to get this.
Like,
right?
With
because
all
I'm so slow.
My playtime, I found my first Divine one, I think, yesterday. Wow. And that's like, I play it a lot. And it's my first one. Now, to be fair, I did get, I think it was 54 div out of the map because it happened in a tier 17 map, which is just, like, it happened on my tier 17 farm. And I was like, there's going to be so many mobs in here.
What Atlas tree setup did you have for it? Did you change it? Because like when that's sick. That's sick. Yeah, that probably would have been the way to go. Like I just did a measly respec into shrines and strong boxes for extra monsters on the map. I put rats on the divine drop, and I quickly skilled into the increased effect of devoted modifiers, which bumped up the 3% chance to a 4.2% chance. But yeah, I still only went out with like 19 divines.
You can switch your tree after you see the modifier? No.
You can change the tree, you can respec the tree, you can change.
You can't.
Wait, no, I think you've already committed. I think the tree is locked in at the time.
But you can change the tree itself. You can't change it to another one, but you can change the nodes on the tree that you selected to use with the map.
I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Me. It was kind of sad because I wasn't able, obviously, after you looked at the list through the lantern, you can't change the Scarab setup anymore, and it was set up for full Harby farm. So, like, I obviously didn't have the ambush Scarabs in there and the domination Scarabs, so I lost out a fair bit, but I think 19 divines is still fine in the private league because I had just borrowed 5 the other day from someone, and I was able to just give the 5 back. I mean, they didn't want them back, but...
I do kind of wish that I could change Scarabs and Atlas after seeing the mods, because like I wish that I could like change back to I've got a Harby Atlas, and then I get one that's like area contains harbingers, and I'm like, I'm on back to basics.
Yeah,
it'd be so good if I could take my Scarabs out, put my Harby Scarabs in, and just flip to my Harby tree, which is my other farm that I'm doing, and just be like, yo, this map is gonna be great.
Yeah, and all the Harby maps, like the fully Harby Scarab maps, I only had the packs are accompanied by a Harbinger once.
Can I say one of the things I think is a problem with this league is that a lot of the devoted modifiers, like the benefits of them are focused too much on the jackpot ones. And I think this is something that really came up from Calandra in particular, was like where you'd kill a monster and like such a percentage of them were thanks Greg in comments there that Catmaster just put up there. So much of the loot that you get was in these individual jackpot events. And the same with Eater of Worlds altars. If you just consider the altar rewards themselves, so much of the loot comes from the Divine Orb ones, and to a lesser extent the Greater Eldritch Ember, Grand Icors ones. I would rather have the Chaos Orb ones like be better and more common, and have the Divine Orb ones be like a lower percentage so that they can happen more. So you have essentially like the difference between the Fortunate and the other Brother's Gift, the other zone-wide div card for Divine Orbs. Every time you get a Brother's Gift, it's worth 30 Fortunate cards. It's 30 times rarer. I'd rather have the reliable progress. I can see people preferring the jackpots, but I feel that this league is too heavy on catering to the jackpot chasers, and it would be better to have like a better Chaos Orb one, you know, like have or have Divine Shards would be a great thing to have there, as they'd be something that's a nice in-between reward that's meaningfully better than a Chaos Orb, meaningfully worse than a Divine, and that you could actually have
an Exalt is.
Yeah, except like then you're going to flood the market with Exalts to the point that then that it's like standard.
I mean, they're worth what, like 12, 15 C a piece?
They have that value because they're as rare as Divine Orbs, though. Just lower demand, but equal supply. Like if you had an actual Divine Shard, it'd be something that could be safely given out in something like this without being as problematic as giving out raw divines, which ends up creating this thing where because you're giving out 50 in once, you can't do this often at all. It is a miracle drop when it happens.
Speaking of like divine drops, do you guys think they nerfed, or they definitely changed some of the rare monster mods for the jackpot drops, the rarity changes? I've dropped one divine this league. Naturally, I dropped at least like 10 or 11 at this point last league. Like it's insane.
I've been low on direct drops from, but that said, if you were to ask me, like, so you're asking me how I'm feeling about divine orb drops. If you were to ask me, if you were to tell me GGG nerfed one currency category this league, what do you think it was? My answer would have been the Eldritch Icors and Embers. I've been so starved of them this league. But Divine Orbs, I've had a little bit less, but not statistically significantly less. I think I've got 6 direct drops.
Oh, wow. Damn. Okay.
So I told you that I got the Divine modifier, right? And I got 56 in there. I also got 1 Divine Altar from Blue Embers that dropped me 17 Divines in the map. And I have the Exiled Pilfer's Ring. So what's 56 plus 17? Hang on.
73.
73.
73? Okay. So my total divine drops for the entire league is 83 with my playtime. Which that is, other than the 2 modifiers, I've only found 10 div this entire league on the floor.
That's crazy.
Which is around about a fifth of what I would expect by now.
Yeah, which is to support Sirgog's point, is like there's just a really shortage of like consistent divine drops in favor of the big explosions, and I don't think it would hurt anyone if the explosions were a little bit less generous and you get more of an average consistent return.
Yeah,
that's my preference anyway. But I can understand people preferring the explosions. It feels like the explosions make for a more exciting moment on streams and things like that. But I think the consistency is a better play experience.
Yeah, specifically for people who don't play 12 plus hours a day, right?
This is specifically what I liked last league the most for. Because, there were degenerates at the top, and then people slightly below that, which is where I was, getting tons of stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, then you had casual people who could just run, like, they just had, like, 1 Venter's Gamble that was average on their character, and that was it. And they were just doing, like, 3 or 4K juice maps. And those people were still getting divines on the floor regularly and still getting things dropped for them regularly. There were all this middle ground area for people of varying skill and playtime to do stuff. And it feels a lot like all the middle ground is kind of screwed this league. Like if you're a shitter who knows nothing, you're doing fine because nothing really affected you. And if you're a 1%er, you can do all your tier 17 stuff, and it's great. And if you're anywhere in the middle, you kind of got fucked a little bit. Which is a lot of people.
What's up?
Maybe that's also like a little bit, distorted in a certain direction in the perception of people, because we've seen so many like top tier strats this league with the what a lot of people say, this whack-a-mole approach by GGG, where everyone flocks to the best strategy gets nerfed, everyone goes to the next best strategy, and like I definitely would have appreciated with the changes a little bit more context. I mean, I know that it takes a lot of extra work to elaborate thoughts on why something has changed. But like every time I found new patch notes and I went into the patch notes, like with half of the changes, I didn't even know what problem they were addressing. Like I look at the change, oh, that's interesting that they changed that. What was that being abused for? And then my chat needs to tell me what it was being used for, because I'm not like super in touch with everything. But it was a very fast-paced meta evolution, this league, with all the changes and the community reacting and flocking to the next best strategy.
Do you think that's a one and done? Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like the thing of like there's so much rapid transitioning from strategies to strategies. And I think a really interesting case study in this is back when I used to play Magic the Gathering. There was a period for those that played this was original Tarkia era, where Wizards of the Coast were very transparent about original Theros. Wizards of the Coast were very transparent about data. And what this meant was that it was very clear to players what the best performing decks were. So you could watch replays of any game that was played on Magic Online, and people wrote bots that would scrape this and then would categorize decks into what their archetype was and how they were performing against each other. So it turned out that there were 62,000 games played between Deck A and Deck B, and Deck A had a 55% win rate. This was clearly known by the entire community. Anyway, Wizards of the Coast actually removed this transparency completely. They stomped it out, and they went out of their way to obscure things. And part of the reason for that was that they'd had to ban a whole bunch of cards because the flocking to the new proven best strategy was so fast. The meta got solved really quickly. I don't think this is addressable for grinding your games. I think they have to try and find ways where they make it so that like they can't do what WotC did, because so much of their marketing is tied up in streaming. That, you know, like the whole marketing strategy is rise to the top of Twitch once every quarter. So they can't sort of do anything about the transparency.
Well.
So,
which they do quite well.
Yeah, well, and that means that they're then in this really difficult spot where they can't attack the transparency, but they have the problems where the transparency exists and it's causing rapid shifts. And I don't really know what the solution is. They've tried trade friction as an approach, but players have solved that. Like, we've optimized all the trade friction out of the game pretty much. Not for the bottom 60% of endgame players, but for the top 40% of endgamers. I feel like that the friction's been optimized out, and so you can just rapidly pivot from strategy to strategy. You don't have to heavily commit, except for a few strategies, like Delve requires a heavy commitment. To a lesser extent, Heist requires a moderate commitment, at least to min-max it. But yeah, I definitely don't have the solution, but I think that's worth thinking of the impact that so much transparency has. It means that once something gets figured out, it quickly becomes, if it's a balance problem, it's not a balance problem, it's a balance emergency really quickly.
Right. And they had so many this league because they changed literally the entire game at once.
So much, yeah.
Everything shifted with the Scarabs and everything. I had a radical thought. What if they like made Scarabs account bound or something? Some shit like
terrible.
That.
Yeah.
Terrible? You think it would be that bad?
Yeah, terrible. Don't even no.
I'm putting it into the universe. Mark, you can call me.
What was the suggestion again? I didn't get that.
Okay, so I feel like a lot of the abuse is coming from Scarabs this league, obviously, because they want people to shift their endgame strategies to be around them. What if those were made? What if the highest tier were made like? Nah, I'm trying to think out loud, and stupid thoughts are coming out of my mouth.
No, bad. Hey, what if instead we have a good look at what Scarabs were expensive, and then have a look at the ones that were shit, and we make all the shit ones better so that there are options.
But there has to be shit options for there to be good options, Baylor. Come on.
Yeah,
it's their lives.
The shit option is to not use the Scarab.
And the shit option could be 10 to 20% instead of 95%. Right?
Like, I think that all three divination Scarabs are a huge problem with this league in trade.
Oh.
All three of them should go. I reckon. And then there's a couple of other extreme outlier scarabs. Horn Scarab of Preservation makes other problematic scarabs worse than they would otherwise be. But then there's a bunch of scarabs that are too weak as well. And then there's ones that just do fun stuff, but you want to do the fun stuff. You want to play with these ones.
Yeah.
But then you realize, oh, that's coming at the cost of getting less loot because I could be using a power scarab instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I can tell you that the Harbinger scarabs are definitely not fun. You put them all in, and the Harbingers are still garbage. You get like alt shards and transmute shards on half the Harbingers, and like if you don't get the conversion to a King Harbinger, like you just have a regular Harbinger, they drop like almost nothing if you get good shards, right? You get like Harbinger shards, you get 2 stacks of 2 shards, right? And imagine how bad that feels if you get a fracturing shard drop or even like a mirror shard drop on like a regular Harbinger that didn't get the 50-50 chance to get upgraded to a King Harbinger. And yeah, so I've been farming like a little bit of Harbinger, but since yesterday my streamer interview was released, I also apparently my streamer RNG is there now. So yesterday I did directly get a fracturing orb drop from one of the Harbingers, like get 3.5 fracturing orbs total in my private league. Of course, it hit none of the damage over time multi-scepter fractures that I wanted. And then today we got the divine thing, and I ancient orb the headhunter. So I don't know.
Awesome.
It's all
you're
connected.
on fire at the moment.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. One thing I like is that they've given identities to a bunch of the different types of scarabs that you can run. Like Abyss, for instance, is the chill XP approach. Shrines has one that's explosive for XP, but is generally the I want a power boost in this map setup. Mm-hmm. Some of that already existed, but some of it's more defined now. But some of the potential setups just don't quite have the power that they need, or sometimes some individual scarabs are maybe a little bit rarer than they need to be for a strategy to work well. Like, I've not seen Breach be overly good. It's a lot of fun still, but it just feels like it feels like the Chayula one could probably be a tier more common, or something else. Like it feels like it's not quite there. And a bunch of the others, like Legion's pretty strong this league, right? Yes, I think so.
I don't know how things are in trade, but from my subjective private league experience, like the breaches also just feel bad because in comparison to just putting all flame embers of Zoff or something like that onto your packs, you get so many breach splinters from those. Like when you put them on high map pack density mobs.
Yeah. One point about scarabs. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just saying I haven't had much luck with the breach splinter all flame members. Like I get a fair few, but I would rather run over a hand of Zeshtula in a map.
If I run a Chayula all flame, I usually get a whole stone out of the map with no breach spec anywhere. I would say that's I get a full stone out of a map if I run a Chayula all flame.
You're 17 map though. You're talking, right?
No, just 16s.
Really? Oh my god. What am I doing wrong with my maps?
That's why nobody's running breach. You can just get more from the
I think
old
it's just the Valor, the back to basics, and the huge modifier.
That's probably what it is. Because I'm not doing back to basics. Bonuses. Yeah, that's it.
Well, that one was with a strongbox strat.
Okay, so it wasn't even back to basics.
Yeah, but actually, strongboxes are very strong with the monster conversion.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, for anyone who doesn't understand why, strongbox strats work with nearly everything all flame related, because every strongbox in the map, the mobs that pop out are taken from the pool of the natural inhabitant packs in the map. Yeah. So if we're replacing those natural inhabitants with, say, Chalupa all flame mobs, then almost every box that you open will also have Chalupa all flame mobs in it. And that works for every single omen that exists. So you can use omens with boxes, basically. Very, very well.
Can I suggest a test for you, Baylor? Do you want to try running like 10 of these strongbox setups, but use the flaring all-flame Ember of Scientists, the one that gives the highest experimented basis craft.
I should have a look at that. Sorry, I keep saying omens, and I mean all flames every time.
I mean,
by the way, I never ever mean omens. I always mean all flames. I haven't used omens for anything. I don't know why I can't get my head around fixing that terminology.
Yeah, is there a reason ever to say omens?
Yeah, I've not used omens for anything. I don't care about those. They're not the thing I'm doing.
Yeah, if you do that as an experiment, but also stick stacks of 500 and larger rogue markers on your filter as well. Just want to see how much you get out of your current Atlas setup with that.
I don't even have the boxes set up anymore. But mind you,
don't worry about it. That's cool. I might experiment with it myself. It's more the number of crafts that you get the experimented weapon craft. But you got that. You've also got the like large stacks of markers that really do add up with that.
The omens, the all flames. Oh my god, Valor. Oh, shit. No. The all flames. It is contagious. The all flames are responsible for my new favorite PoE clip, and that's Quinn getting all the divines from that map. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's like a 5-minute clip. Oh, it's some of the funniest stuff. He's flaming GGG the entire time and saying how bad for the game this is, just laughing. Oh, it's so good. It's really good. It's my favorite clip now.
Yeah,
getting like 59 divines or something from a map on hardcore solo self-found. It's just glorious.
Well, at least it's not bad for the game if it's an hardcore solo self-found.
Right, true. Yeah, from the chess. Yeah, exactly. Very funny.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, we briefly touched on a lot of things and then went on and go to other things, and so there's a bunch of topics that we briefly touched on where I still wanted to go a little bit deeper, just not too deep, but like a little bit deeper. One of them is the state of tier 17 maps. I think we've all like tried to run a handful of them. Well, after the most recent change, how do we feel about the modifier pools? Because now it's not only the super strong tier 17 mods that are in the pool, but also some weak tier 16 mods, right? So it's not too bad anymore to roll them, but is it
that's
still...
what made them like runnable now.
Yeah.
Before they were out of the question for almost everybody. Now I feel like probably from my own definitions, 10% of people will be comfortably able to farm them once you learn what all the modifiers do. There's a very, very, very big variance. If you just throw in a tier 17 map and you're like, oh, I don't know what most of those modifiers mean, but there's got none of the modifiers that I normally couldn't run in a tier 16, and then you get absolutely pushed in, that's going to happen because you haven't learned those modifiers yet, and some of them will wreck you.
Yeah.
But once you learn to roll them, I think at least the top 10% will comfortably be able to farm them, and probably more like 20 or 30% will be able to clear one for their own map device. And when I say 20 or 30%, I'm talking about how I defined them earlier, not actually 20% of the total player base, right?
So that's 20 to 30% of people who do at least one tier 16 in a league.
Yeah.
Is what you think would be. Yeah, I think it was fine for them to be overtuned early. I actually wish they'd stayed overtuned a little longer than they did, so that I could have gotten powerful enough to try them before they got nerfed. But I think it's the right call to make them accessible eventually, and I think they're in a pretty good spot now where they're an aspirational challenge for the casual endgamer. Like, there's something that's like, you can't beat this now, but you do feel you can get better to the point you can beat it. It doesn't feel like, say, going into Uber Maven and dying, losing your 6 portals when the boss is at 97%, and you're like, oh, I just got outclassed by that. It's very different when you're like, you go into, say, the Maven and you get to phase 6, the phase 7, the final phase, and then you lose your 6th portal there, and you're like, yeah, okay, I got beaten, but I feel like I just need to get a bit better and I can get there. Mm-hmm. And I think they've got it at that spot now. But I feel like the difficulty nerfs maybe came a little too early. I I would have liked to have got my ass kicked for a bit longer on them early. What they should have said, though, is say on day 3 or 4, these are probably too hard. We're trying to solve this, but they're going to stay as they are until the end of the second weekend. Then after that, we'll have a patch where we're going to make them more accessible. And then, again, communicate better. Announce in advance.
Maybe it could have also made it so that the old difficulty was still available in some way, right? Like by just vendoring the map with a wisdom scroll or like some obscure recipe that would restore the old functionality for that one specific map item. Actually,
slightly unrelated, but I just remembered it, and I need to inform as many people as possible. I do not have the specific data. If anybody has the time to actually test it to get real accurate numbers, that would be great. But I don't. But singular focus for people who aren't farming tier 17s, actually really bad. I think you get roughly a quarter the amount of tier 17 maps having taken singular focus as if you don't take it. And since those maps are worth like 70 C each, it's throwing money away. So I've explained how map drops work before, and I'm just going to run it really, really quick. A quick TLDR of how map drops work and where the new tier 17s fall in, right? You roll to drop a map, successful. Then you roll the tier of map that can drop. And then you apply your chance to upgrade it a tier. This is when it becomes tier 16s. If it fails, assuming you've got all 4 watchstones, there's no below tier 16 on your atlas. If it fails, it enters a hidden map equity drop system where you get an extra 1% chance for the next map to be a map higher, which is why you can sustain maps with 4 watchstones, but you can't with 3. And then, so that, if it fails, goes back into the pool, the next one will drop a tier higher, great. When it successfully drops a tier 16, it then rolls, including your Atlas chance to be favorites, all of that, to decide on which map to drop. If it doesn't roll your favorite map and you have singular focus, this is the stage where that map gets turned into currency and it's gone. Then after that stage, it rolls its chance to become a tier 17 and then drops the tier 17 on the ground. And then if it's not a tier 17, it'll be one of your favorite maps. Because it's happening after that stage, it means if you take singular focus, you're losing a fairly decent chunk of the tier 17 maps that should have dropped.
So your drop weight is 360 to... It should only be 25%, but that is still something.
It feels like at least 2.5 times as much, but this is not me tracking it. This is me playing for a day with it, playing for a day without it, and then clearly seeing a difference in the amount of maps that I've accrued. I haven't had the time, and I'm not one of those spreadsheet people, so I haven't done the specific tests of like exactly how much it is different, but I know it's different. I also very, very, very much want them to change the order in which that happens. I would like them to roll, if it's a tier 17, before they check what map it is. After it gets tiered up to 16, I would like it to check for tier 17s there before it gets deleted and turned into currency by singular focus. Because for me, it kind of ruins singular focus entirely, and those are most of my favorite kind of maps. I want to be running singular focus. So I would love for them to change that. But sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent, not quite related, but I just remembered it and was like, I need to tell as many people as possible, and this podcast is a chance to do that.
No, I mean, you're correct. That's great, and it's also fair to point out because it's super unintuitive how it works. It's not quite obvious. And yeah, as for changing it, I think that's a great idea because, you know, I on the one hand, I don't want to make Atlas Keystones like this one more complicated than they are by adding additional rules. But if it essentially means that this is completely unrunnable, which it kind of does if you can't get any tier 17s at all.
Yeah, I also think singular focus should not affect unique maps.
It doesn't?
So
it doesn't.
Yeah, it vendors synth maps. It vendors Shaper Guardian maps.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that not.
I was
unique,
thinking like
but
regular unique maps, but you're right. It screws up like Guardians, Shaper Guardians,
Yeah.
and those sort of things, and synth maps and whatnot, but not like regular unique maps. Those can still drop. For some
Oh,
reason.
all right. I didn't get any when I had it on when I was testing it for a while, but I didn't test it for all that long. I
use
don't
it,
like it.
religiously all the time.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about tier 17 maps when you made that tangent. What modifiers do stand out to you as modifiers that you need to learn? Because you said like you need to learn the modifier pool because some of them are really hard to understand how they work.
So Union of Souls is actually one of the most dangerous mods that's ever existed. I can run it fine, by the way.
Oh my
build just
God.
freezes through it. It's fine. It's
Screw
just a bit
you.
hard. But most builds should not be running Union of Souls. Even if you understand how Union of Souls works, or you think you do, what actually happens is not what I thought would happen. I thought every pack of white and magic mobs in the map would each have Union of Souls.
No, it
That
makes
is
the
not
entire
the
map
case.
one
All the
unit.
rare-
There is
Zelda
one
version.
Union of Souls mod covering every normal and magic mob in the entire map.
So how long does it take to kill the last monster?
Longer than it takes to kill the map boss if it's a white mob.
Yeah.
While it
God.
also has something along the lines of 70,000% increased damage, it's what killed my Animate Guardian, who never dropped any life the entire time, and then I run Union of Souls and a white mob one-shots him.
Okay,
So,
that's good to
yeah.
keep in mind. Unsummon that next time.
That's a very dangerous one. There's also a mod that says remove 10% of life when hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that one isn't mitigated by anything.
Anything.
And on
It's
hit
just
also
remove.
counts when you block, even if you don't take damage,
Oh.
Yeah,
because you're still hit.
yeah, that is correct.
Which means 10 things hit you at the same time, which happens all the time. You are instantly dead regardless of your defenses. Because 10% times 10 is 100. Bye.
Yeah.
But evasion means you're not hit. So clearly
Yes.
the strat here is to not get hit.
Yep,
It's-
evasion,
The numbers on that one are
evasion is
too
a
high.
thing.
10 is too
Too
high
high.
a number for it. It's a good
Yeah.
mod, but the number is too high.
That could be maybe 2, and it would still be
2 or
very
1.
dangerous. But I could play that map slowly.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
it was
2 to 3.
2, I could play that map slowly, but it would be dangerous.
Hmm.
10 is insane. I don't know how anyone runs that. It's actually insane.
So like I rolled maps deliberately for that when I was doing the one time I did that Einhar
Yeah.
shenanigan to demonstrate it in order to get GGD to nerf it. And I died 3 times in that map.
Maybe
including
elaborate on that a
from-
little bit for the people who are not aware. Like I said,
Oh.
when I see changes in the patch notes, I'm always like, wait, why did they change that? And maybe like some people don't understand what exactly was happening here.
Yeah, so rare and unique monsters, the wording is very precise on this. Rare and unique monsters, I think, drain 10% of current life, mana, and energy shield. It does not specify that this is only draining it from players and their minions. And Einhar and Hark are both unique monsters. So also is Dancing Duo. So also is Conversion Trap, rare monsters. Those remained longer. Like the emergency nerf they did to address the thing that I snitched about was to Einhar and Huck specifically, and then later they addressed it further. But basically Einhar in particular has a machine gun attack that was able to one-shot bosses. Like I don't know if you've got the footage of me doing it, Catmaster.
I could
Like
find
you'll
it.
see me fighting a magic monster and taking 8 or 10 seconds to kill it. Then I walk into the Unbreakable, and the Unbreakable is dead pretty much before Einhar can sneeze.
Oh my God.
And
You got a lot of people their 5th map device slot that day, I think.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah. It was really funny though because someone
God.
that was a viewer of mine messaged me a clip of it happening, and at first they couldn't work out what had happened. because it happened to them while they were just mapping. They had a full Einhar spec on their map, and they were just mapping and experimenting, and then they just instantly killed the Unbreakable on a character that was like not expecting to
to do that at all.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, was like, oh, I'm going to try this as, you know, the sort of World of Warcraft style progression rating where you're like, I'm going to go into this boss, try and learn what it does. They didn't even know what the Unbreakable did.
Right.
They didn't even know the mechanics. So yeah, this is just really funny. Like, it's just like splat, dead. That was Einhar.
You didn't even have time to hover the health bar.
Jeez.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's been fixed.
That has indeed been fixed. Yeah, that needed to be fixed.
That seems a little yeah.
Excessive is the word you're looking for.
I did not deserve that kill at all.
No.
And yeah, for the record, this does not work anymore. It has been instantly fixed. First for Einhar and Huck, but now in the meantime also for Dancing Dervish and other options.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't work anymore either for them.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Nice. I think they're fun, and I think it adds a lot of room for GGG to add some awesome new fights to the game, like one every patch. That's not a lot of work in for them. Like, it's not a brand new Maven fight, an Eater fight. They can like throw together. Like, I'm thinking, Mark said he wanted to do Uber Dominus, so I feel like we're gonna get like an Uber Dominus map next league.
That's cool.
Something like that. Wouldn't that be so cool? Like,
I'd be right with that.
I'd be pretty hyped. If they changed like the voice line a little bit, like to be more powerful, like feel the touch of God, like Echo or some shit. Oh, that'd be so cool. Yeah. But little stuff like that.
Brainstorm other bosses that would be cool. Like, what's an obscure boss you haven't done in a long time? I would have said Kurgle, but they burnt him on the Katarina one.
You literally never fight. I have never fought Owl. I've played since Blight. I've never found him in Delve. If they integrated him in some way or just aspects of his fight, I'd be so happy. Because I don't
I've
like
got it
Delve.
all in my Delve mines if you want to try it later. I'm like 3 steps from it all.
Ooh, I bet I'd get my ass kicked, but
it's a fun
he's
fight.
really brutal at first. Yeah,
it
he's
looks
a real
like a cool
learning
fight.
experience. But he's especially good if you like. He's an incredible fight if you can't outgear him. So if you have to play his mechanics, but you will die multiple times learning them. The Hurl Nuck ability is going to catch you by surprise and kill you.
Right. Yeah. So that fight's super cool, I think.
That's a bullet hell if people don't know it. People don't know the cry for it.
Mm-hmm. I think an all act, so something like a Maven Crucible, but all the act bosses Uber in a fight. I thought that would be super cool, and I thought that's what the last boss would be.
And the act bosses, like the end bosses,
17.
Like Merveil and the Val Oversoul, like all those, like in a single fight somehow, like maybe almost wave style. I thought that would be pretty cool and easy for them to do.
You could make that now, actually.
Right, you could literally in the Maven's Crucible.
Yeah.
No, that all needs to be on the Atlas at once, though.
Oh,
speaking of, you guys are talking about new tier 17 maps being added. Yeah. I'm waiting for the Maven invite for the tier 17s.
Can't you witness them?
Maven's invitation to 17.
Can you witness them right now, the T17 bosses?
I have never tried.
I think you can.
It.
Don't think you can you?
You can't. Well, you know what? I have POV right here. I'm on my computer. Let me just check it out really fast. Because I know she can interfere in the fights, but that's not the same as witnessing.
That one's fun.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
That one. I had to spec into the Mark Mastery for that one because I got that on the T17 I tried.
I can run it, but it's dangerous.
Yeah. Okay, let's check out live. Can I witness with the Maven?
You can have the tier 17 exclusive mod. The Maven interferes with players on the map, so you can have Maven do things in the map, but you can't witness the boss encounter itself.
But Balor's right. We need a Maven fight with all these guys. That'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be the new. What would it be called though? We already have the feared.
Yeah, the 17.
The 17.
Yeah.
The busted.
The uber feared.
The petrified.
Yeah. The petrified.
It could be the terrors. It'd be another one you could have. It's like they're all nightmares, aren't they? Just the nightmares. They're all called
Yeah.
Nightmare
Yeah.
of the
That's good.
I like
That's good.
Nightmare. That's
The
good.
nightmares. That's really good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's in the next patch notes, then we know who to credit for that idea.
This guy right here. Look at that.
Actually, the idea of a tier 17 Maven invitation came up in my Discord before it came up because someone was chatting to Octavian and he was banned from telling anything about whether he was explicitly banned from saying whether or not such a fight existed. He said that in conversation to someone. It was like, yeah, he's not allowed to talk about whether or not such a fight exists. And that made me think that probably it does exist. But
Well, that just tells me that the conversation has been had.
Oh yeah.
Sorry?
That just tells me that conversation has already been had. Whether what way they decided, I don't know, but that tells me they've also thought about that at least.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to think what other bosses could be tier 17 eyes. Like, I feel like if you wanted to be really sadistic, you could have Esh or Tull or even Zeshdula as a 17.
Not Tull, please leave him. I don't want him. I hate
Esh
that
is
guy.
harder than Tull. God. if
The Breach Lords, Esh and Tull.
Oh,
Esh and Tull were scary ones, and
are they?
To me,
Esh has the flicker strike. Like, depends on your recovery, but Esh has a whole bunch of abilities. Like, Esh has the teleport to you, then set off an arena-wide slam that you have to be able to tank. Tull has that avalanche that slowly turns. I find Tull is an area controller. Very dangerous in the hidden because Tull is able to just turn a whole area of the arena into a no-go zone for a period.
Yep. Yeah.
But Esh has the most dangerous abilities by far. Like, Chayula is the wrong one to be in the field. Chayula was the top of the Breach Lords back in the day when Chaos Resist was hard to get, and no one was running around with 75 except if you had Meritia gear. Nowadays, 75 Chaos Resist is something you try to aspire to maybe by the time you do your 50th tier 16 map. And in that era, Chayula is easy, and Esh, I think, is just much more dangerous.
They could have the bestiary bosses. That'd be cool. Have them all in one fight.
Yeah, that's a good
That'd
idea.
be a good one. I see people in chat are talking about Omniphobia and Kosis. But I feel like Simulacrum Wave 30 is kind of that already a lot of the time. Maybe not.
Yeah, Omniphobia is a very basic fight. Kosis is quite complex. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. I'm not watching your chat at the moment, so it's just I've missed anything.
What was his name? I've got the answer. What was his name? Shit.
Who?
Hang on. The old Beyond boss, the one that was dangerous.
Yes.
But one.
Yeah.
Yes.
The old Beyond
You
boss.
have it.
Yep.
Abaxoth, the end of all that can be.
Yes.
Alex looked terrible, but it was a great move set. That was
Please. That needs
He
to come
was
back.
dangerous.
That was my first what the fuck moment in Path of Exile, like in Endgame.
Yeah.
When I spawned him, I was like, what is going on? What is killing me? This is crazy.
And the
With
name
lightning
was
bolts.
perfect too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Abaxoth's moveset with new graphics would be amazing. And also makes me think Death and Taxes boss would be another
Not
rude
that
boss.
What about all the non-cortex synthesis bosses combined?
That exists. It's called Maven's Invitation, the Forgotten.
Yeah.
Oh,
Forgotten.
That was that? Okay.
You forgot
Yeah,
about
no.
it.
Abaxoth, the end of all, or whatever it was. That is
The end of all
I'm
that
so
is.
sad that fight's not in the game anymore because it's like, in my mind, one of the more iconic, like, oh, fuck, Abaxoth's here. Shit. Run.
Abaxoth
I
was in a
remember
weird
actively
spot.
running.
I do remember that Abaxoth oftentimes was, if your build is good enough, you could outleech Abaxoth easily. And what was more scary was Bameth because of the corpse explosion and the temp chains, right?
Oh.
So like he would put temp chains onto you and then use his Val DD, and you couldn't get off the corpses in time because his temp chains had like 80% increased effect or something like that. Like something really absurd. You're like literally standing still when he had that on.
I miss
And
those
also-
guys.
also thought
Hast
Hast was
skill too.
yeah.
Hast was like the one that crushed you in early progression. Mammoth was the one that crushed you super late. And Abaxoth was the rare one that just showed up, and like killing Abaxoth was really hard. Like you would often, but you could cheese him. You'd hide around corners. I'm kind of curious how you would approach Abaxoth in a, like, I feel you'd have to have an arena that's got obstructions in it. Otherwise, he's actually probably too strong. Like you'd either have his stats are too high and he crushes you, or his stats are too low and you crush him. He feels like he'd feel like a stat check, but he'd be really interesting if he had a sort of temporary enrage that you had to run away from.
Right.
So if you think like the mechanic that Chateau Map Boss and Molten Cavity Zone Boss, Gehenix in Delve from the Faceted Fossil, if you had the enrage mechanic that they have where there's a very visible, I get big and I've like 35% more damage, 35% faster attacks, kind of like the player skill Berserk. When that goes up, you have to run away. That would be a really interesting thing, I think, for Abaxoth.
I like that. Yeah.
I like Vicious suggestion in chat as well. Legion bosses as tier 17. Like combining. I mean, I guess you got the 5 ways, right, where you got all the Legion bosses, but like having them in an arena where they're closer together and they interact and overlap more.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't naturally happen in the
is sketchy. And if you want something that's there's a couple of the heist bosses are kind of interesting as well. Nashta is genuinely an endgame tough boss. The Twins is a terrible fight, but Nashta is a really interesting endgame boss as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the Crucible League humping spider. All those bosses, the Crucible unique monsters, bring them back. Omniphobia skinned Crucible guy was pretty cool. Or just those trash mobs that used to one-shot me from Crucible League. I don't remember what they were called. But those like white mobs that would just one-tap me with a little projectile. Bring those guys back. Yeah.
I'm not missing those.
Oh, they could do that though, you guys. Oh, they could totally, because all the maps had that unique skin. They could do a Crucible Forge T17, because that's gone from the game. They could bring all the old monsters back, have those packs in there. Oh, come on.
That would be quite interesting, I think.
Bring it back. Just like Trial of the Ancestors, they could do that too. All those monsters.
The totem monsters are in the game at the moment.
With the All Flame Embers. I thought that's a genius way to put them in.
Yeah.
That's really good.
They're also still just as bullshit.
Oh man, dude. I had a turtle and it was in an essence. And the turtle did the frost breath thing, and it didn't even look like it was damage over time. I just got hit with and the life bar was gone.
Yeah.
That's so good. I got one shot by Kahu Taroa, or whatever his name is, as is usual from Trial of the Ancestors.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Just his overwhelm on that.
It was it was like a juice and nothing's one-shotting me. I'm chilling out. I was doing a bits farm too, and I was just putting in random embers for the challenge, for 40 challenges. And I was like, he won't do anything to me. It'll be totally fine. I just got one shot. 10% XP gone. It's okay. It's fine. I still earned it back that map. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Uber Toda tier 17. That we need. One thing I still wanted to say about the tier 17 map mod pool is I feel like there's too few mods. Maybe I haven't seen them all yet, but there should be more that specifically interact with the bosses and they change the boss fights in a meaningful way. Like the only thing that I saw is the one where unique monsters are affected by a random shrine, which can actually have quite an impact on the boss fight. But yeah, like stuff that. Yeah, go ahead. Sirgog.
You go. You finish.
I just meant like stuff that changes how the boss fight plays out and how we actually do it.
I feel like the numbers on things that modify bosses need to be lower than the ones that modify trash monsters. Mm-hmm. And this is an ongoing problem that Path of Exile has, where map mods that are engaging and interesting against trash end up being overwhelming when they're applied to a boss. I think it's one of the things that Delve has its very different mod pool has tried to address that at various points, and Synthesis did as well, but the Synthesis mods almost don't exist now. Things in particular like increased AoE. I think like 35% increased AoE on a boss is a very meaningful mod. Whereas to have a meaningful mod on trash monsters, you kind of want it to be in the 90% range.
Yeah, like 100 on trash is still fine. But 100 on a boss. Ooh.
Like I said, 35 would be a good mod on a boss. Haste is another example where 40% on trash is fine. Like that's a scary mod, but it's a very manageable one. But on a boss, I think even 15% haste is a very scary thing. And so I don't know what the solution is. I feel like having maybe a situation where there's one mod from the current tier 17 exclusive pool, one mod from a boss modifying exclusive pool that are quite low tuned, and then one or two mods. This is in each of prefix and suffix. One or two that are from the standard tier 16 mod pool might be an interesting setup.
I have a wild idea. So they have like the Searing Exarch runes that can pop up, the Cirrus deatomization storms. I say they add a mod that only affects the boss fight. Maven memory game. Searing Exarch ball phase. To all the fights. You can roll that on.
At the same time.
You can roll them both. That prefix suffix, okay? There you go. I think that would be wonderful.
Get out.
No, come on.
No.
I hope Mark, please listen. Come on.
Listen,
I should have just like
even
removed
do
Try
either
from
of
the
those
conversation, just kicked him out of the podcast.
Right?
For the meeting.
I do agree with sirgog though that having like a boss specific mod would be pretty good. I'm a fan. I think in PoE 2, now we're not talking about it, but I think maps, if they still have roll modifier pools, since those bosses are going to be the crazy bosses from the campaign, I think they're going to have like boss specific modifiers and monster specific modifiers, and the monster modifiers will not affect the bosses. Like there might be the 35% increase to attack speed, movement speed, whatever, but that's not going to affect regular monsters. Maybe something like that in T17s, but I don't know. If they do that in PoE 1. Be too different.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. Like, I actually posed this question as like the finisher to the tier 17 map mod stuff, and as a segue to my question that I had written down before, where with the new Uber system where you don't spec into the keystones anymore and you don't have the regular invitations to roll, stuff like the Uber Exarch or the Uber Eater, which was previously rollable, is not rollable anymore, right? You just get the fragments now, and the fragments are just white items. Do you think it should come back? And what kind of modifiers would you like to see in a potential Uber boss mod pool? I mean, we already get Try's answer, like just ball phase and memory game everywhere.
Boom. That is my answer. So go in. Yeah.
They have a real opportunity here to make like some real cool stuff happen.
I guess I've sort of given my answer that low impact mods would be the ones that are like, at least the numerical ones should be low impact, and they should be tailored to the monsters themselves. So, for instance, if you're going to have Maven, where you've got bad stuff on the ground, and in the Uber fight, the void zones that come from bad stuff on the ground last for the entirety of the fight, that's an example of something where increasing the AoE on that is unbelievably brutal. So the number has to be small.
Or what if you could roll how fast the beams move in phase 7? Like it has like a variance of like 20% faster to 80% faster. That'd be kind of crazy too. The coil beams. Yeah. That would be kind of wild. Oh, just thinking about that. I can only imagine like a gauntlet bounty where you have to kill the Uber Maven with 80% faster move speed on the beams. Oh my god. That'd be good.
Do people even outplay the beams? People just flame dash over them, right?
Outplay the beams?
Well, I mean, flame dashing over them is dodging them. There are different ways you can dodge them. You teleport
Fair
from
enough,
skills.
yeah.
I mean, if you wanted something that was sadistic, you could have players cannot teleport as a boss.
Yes.
And
Ruthless.
We know these bosses get beaten in Ruthless that it can be done without that you can complete them without teleporting. So yeah, there's a sadistic mod, but
that's a good one. I like that. Go
I
ahead.
didn't
Skills
even
that
have a
teleport
thing.
players have +5 second cooldown.
Ooh. I don't like the action speed mod that's on T17s. That's not cool. Every time you use a skill, 4% reduced action speed. I think that should go. As a melee enjoyer, please. That's a killer.
I haven't actually even ran that one yet because I'm like, oh, I attack 4 times a second and then whirling blades and blink as well.
It's bad.
I don't know how long it takes for me to stop myself, but I'm pretty sure I just stop myself at some point, right? Like I go whirling blades and then I go
Yeah. And
and
you
then
stop
I just
him
wait to
there
die. Like
until recently is over.
Yeah. Like pass.
That's got to look at least funny.
Yeah.
Funny.
But yeah, I'm also not a game designer on this sort of stuff. Like, it's hard to come up with good mods, but I think if they had like unique mods that apply to like each of the individual fights for Uber Maven, for Cirrus, and you can like roll a unique pool on each of those, it's gonna be a lot of work to implement, but it could be really rewarding in terms of like the variety that you get. The question is then also, I mean, we don't need to discuss that now, but then there would be the question of, do you have to enforce it to be rolled like the regular Tier 17 maps where you can only modify them with chaos and they come rare already, or do you incentivize making them rare by, you know, having the reward scale? But we're running out of time. We have barely covered ground on my topic list. There's some very specific things that I didn't want to miss out. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing. I mean, the more talking points remain untouched, the less work it is for the next podcast.
Yeah. That's right.
But I think before we forget about it, we need to let sirgog tell us about the Toucan Treasure Hunt Private League that's going to happen.
Yeah, so in almost exactly 24 hours from now, I'm starting a private league, which is going to be a slightly harder version of Necropolis. So we're just using 2 difficulty mods, and also one of my favorite mods, which is that items don't drop normal or magic. Items don't drop magic or rare. If an item would have dropped magic or rare, it drops scoured instead. And that sort of incentivizes crafting from early in the game. So none of this hoarding resources until you're in maps. You're going to want to be crafting from early on. As well as that, the difficulty mods we're using are player resist start at -20. And additionally, that monsters are going to... Oh, that looks so weird having me on the screen as well.
I'm going to pause it.
Let me know if you want a specific image from that I can then flip you Catmaster. But the other thing I was going to say with it is that, the other difficulty mod is that monsters will get 15% of fizz added as each element. So the core idea we're going for here is that you'll be crafting and cooperating more. And early on, it's going to feel like a fresh start, but minus all of the ridiculous stuff that happened early in this league. So things that are intended to be rare in the game are going to be rare, but they're also not going to be non-existent like they would be in Solo Self-Found, where, you know, like Mage Blood doesn't exist unless you have a miracle or you go absolutely berserk in Crimson Prison for a long, long period of time. The item doesn't exist. You can't aspire to acquire it. Whereas in a private league, it is more reasonable to aspire to acquire these things. And yeah, there's the rule set there. But one of the things that we do, like I like to think of this, people may have played in BPL, a private league that runs on days 36, 37, 38, 39 of each league. And my goal here was to have BPL in slow motion. So you're going to have daily objectives to hunt down weird stuff from across Path of Exile. And some of this may be things like running a certain number of Katarina fights to try and actually gather some data on how rare the Veiled Orb is. Other things would be running, just like trying to get weird items like Shadow Stitch that do exist, but that most players may not be aware of, may not have seen. And there'll be treasure hunts like this, but minus the competitive aspect of BPL and minus the 4-day compression of everything into it. So that's the intention. And like I say, people can sign up. I don't know if I'll post the link in our local chat here. And if people are interested, they can sign up there. And there's also
in the chat. I'll try and put it into this description if I don't forget.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll have to go and I'm just sort of updating, like accepting people in currently into the wait list, but we'll have no problem filling up the slot price, the slots, the crowdfunding for the slots that'll happen. And so, we'll tend to have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people in an event like this is my usual experience. But it's a bit earlier than I've usually done it. Normally I've done it in week 6. I'm doing it in week 3 this time. So we'll see if that's better or worse.
Yeah, the question is like at week 6, there's probably a lot of people who've already quit the league or like the season for good, right? And then at week 3, there might have a bunch of people who would like to play but are still busy with like their main league start. It's like maybe too early for them to jump into a private league.
I don't know which of those is going to be the more dominant factor. I guess we'll find out through this. The other thing is, of course, that your character from a private league can be pulled out of the private league into the parent league at any point. And the parent league is Necropolis softcore trade. So if you've got an intention for a character in Necropolis, you can roll it in the private league. And then if it's not for you, like 6 days down the line when you've got your Atlas done, you've sort of finished, I'm sort of fed up with this, you can pull the character out. The other thing I'll mention is that I have personally tested that items not dropping as magic or rare, this does not affect Necropolis crafts.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had to test that because it was something that was...
Did you specifically make Elite just to test that, or was there...
someone else actually did. Like I asked the question in one of the Discords where a bunch of private leagues get discussed, and I was asking, has anyone run one of these yet? And it didn't seem like anyone had, but someone just made one, and I just leveled a character to Act 2, and it took me that long. It took me until a broken beach to get a corpse.
I mean, that's going to make Necropolis grave crafting like significantly stronger if it's easy access to rare items. Then you'd even do like 1 or 2 corpse crafts just to get rare items, like get a shot at like a random good rare.
Yeah, and people should do that during the axe anyway. If you're just starting Necropolis tomorrow, you should be making rare items with the Necropolis grave crafting just in the axe. It's like,
I did on league start. I wouldn't have said the same thing. I'm like, no, you shouldn't. It's a waste of time. Use essences instead. But maybe I just wasn't unlucky.
It was good in Acts 1 and 2 at league start.
Yep.
Yeah, by the time you go to the grave and craft something, you're now 3 zones behind.
Oh, come on. Calm down.
Yeah, but you've solved whatever problem you had.
Yeah?
Like
the problem I've got is that I'm too slow. Slowing down for something else is not an option.
Especially given that, like, Necropolis at league start was, and still for that matter now, it's harder than the base game in terms of the monsters are stronger than in the base game. So the extra power is more significant. And in Toucan, because you've got those 2 difficulty mods on top, like I'm expecting Acts 1 and 2 will be much slower than usual, whereas you'll start getting rolling by Act 3. Acts 1 and 2, though, I'm thinking people will probably, even people that normally get to 3 in 45 minutes might take 75 to 90 because you're going to be that bit weaker early on. It's still softcore, so it doesn't matter if you die, but...
Yeah.
Still feels bad. I don't like dying even in softcore.
Yeah, I got it out of the way really early this league. I had I think it was a really unfair first death, actually. Like, I was trying not to die, but I had something really ridiculous happen. Oh, yeah, it was just a lag spike in the level 5 zone.
I thought like some lantern that you didn't check and some monster had like an obscene amount of non-chaos, extra chaos or something like that.
No. Although that stuff is daily.
Oh,
yeah, the lantern is insane.
In the axe, it's like, it's impactful. I wouldn't say it's necessarily brutal. It's not like I died in that test where I had to level a character at Act 2. It's not like they died, but they came close a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's not insane on average. It's just a significant boost or a noteworthy boost. And then like every once in a while you get like the right mod on the right pack and it's devastating. Yeah.
But you can change that. If you get the right mod on the wrong pack, then you can change that if you want to.
Which does require you to check prior to every
Yes.
area to actually look at the mechanic and to interact with it, which a lot of people didn't do. So yeah, fair point.
But that's like, releasing an essence on an inherently dangerous mob type in the campaign is the same thing. It's a mistake people make. You know, it's like it's an example of some monster that's horrible for an essence.
The cage thingies on the way to Chevron. The
Oh
Yes.
yeah, the
things.
cage skeletons in Act
Yeah,
6.
I want every essence in the campaign, but I will walk past that one. I'm not
because
opening
they take
that.
so long. Because they have like 800% base HP, don't they? Those things.
Yeah, yeah, they're insane. They take so long.
Yeah. Or the other thing that comes to mind just for really sketchy is those Frost Nova things in Act 1. Or Ice Nova things in Act 1. If you get an essence on those and your cold resist is 0, you probably want to run past it.
Well, those guys in chat who are interested in the private league, I dropped the link earlier. I'll try and put it into the description so you can follow it. It's relatively soon, so I'll also make sure that I have this episode uploaded quickly to the Spotify, as always. I guess we've already briefly touched on it, but there's also a very recent interview with Jonathan from GGG done by Josh Strife Hayes. Try, you already brought it up. I thought, I'm sure you agree, it was like almost a masterclass on how to do a well-rounded interview. There were so many points where I felt like that Josh Strife Hayes, and to be fair, Josh is a trained actor, right? So he does have the charisma, but I felt like he, in specific points, he did exactly what the Charisma on Command YouTube channel says, how you are an interesting counterpart in a conversation. Like, he related so well to Jonathan's experience in some points. Insane.
He was utterly ridiculous, and it was super entertaining. I mean, it was unlike any other interview that Jonathan's taken before. And I'm sure Josh watched some of the previous ones, so he knew the vibe he was going to go for was going to be very different from almost everybody else in the PoE community. And I like how he played on the fact that apparently nobody knows about him in the Path of Exile community.
Yeah,
I was very well aware, but Josh, he took it on the chin and played and turned it into part of the interview. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed it. It was entertaining. Like, it wasn't just informative. And I think Josh knew it probably wasn't going to be too informative because of the delay and not a lot of news coming out. So I think he tried to turn it into pure entertainment.
Yeah, I think it was probably less informative than any other interview from like a degenerate I live in this game standpoint.
Yeah.
But more informative in like a general sense of gaming overall than any other interview we've done. And also, I could listen to Josh Strife read the ingredients off my cereal box and enjoy it. That man's voice.
Beautiful.
It's just so soothing and calming and pleasant to listen to.
Yeah. His stories are ridiculous too. I love them.
Yeah.
Who else tried to erase something horizontally after that little story about how your butt jiggles if you go horizontally, but if you do vertical, your butt doesn't jiggle? I tried that. It's actually true. It's kind of crazy.
Doesn't it jiggle up and down when you do vertically?
No, it really doesn't. It like tightens up. It's so weird. I don't know if that's intentional, but like it's tight right now, but I'm going like this, I'm shaking. So I don't know. It's weird.
Okay.
Try it out.
Some butt experimentation.
I know, that's what I
Taylor,
do.
as soon as you mentioned the cereal box thing, like, I have a box of biscuits next to me, and I immediately just looked at the ingredients on it and realized that, like, you could actually try and sing this to the tune of We Didn't Start the Fire. Wheat flour, vegetable oil, antioxidants, and illustrious. I'd have to really work on that, but sorry, I just had to that.
That's good. Yeah, but I thought it was great.
My favorite moment was the one where Jonathan brought up how like every part of the game experience is game design, like the advertising and everything. Like, it's all, and I loved how Josh related to it and said that we have exactly the same thing in theater, where like the entire theater experience is like from the moment you first see the flyer, you go to the event, and it's not just the play itself. And I felt that was such a great, like, well, coming into the same sort of thing from completely different angles, but it's the same principle that they were talking about, and it was so lovely that Jonathan was even unaware of that being a thing in theater.
Yeah.
Where you
I also-
think in all that time that would have come up already, and he would have realized.
Yeah. I also appreciated Jonathan didn't take the D4 bad bait. He has a master class in being respectful to other people. It was just wonderful.
He's very good. But
I mean, Josh just went in. He was just like, yeah, fuck D4, right? You love it when Blizzard messes up, right? And Jonathan's like, actually, you know, it's trite, but I feel horrible for them. You know, I'm in there. I can feel their pain. I love it. It's good.
I completely bought that, though.
Wanted the reply to be, well, we couldn't have a party every time. We'd go broke.
Jesus Christ.
That would have been savage, yeah.
Truly. Oh my gosh.
We also need to get work done. We can't party everything.
Right.
Can't be partying all day.
Also, when he was praising Ori and the Blind Forest and saying, and they're releasing an ARPG, which I am like super excited to play. I mean, that's pretty cool that he's very open about that. I like it. So he's very humble.
Yeah, it was great. Really not much else to say other than it was great. Like for everyone who hasn't seen it yet, like go ahead and watch it. It's a full recommendation. It's quite good, but similarly good. I also enjoyed your interview with Jonathan a lot that you recently had. For those of you in chat who don't know, Jonathan did get interviewed by Tri. Tri had the opportunity to have Jonathan on his show, and I had like 2 or 3 specific questions. Just seeing that like it was your first dev interview, I was curious. Like, how did you prepare? How did you go into it? And like, what is the thing you definitely wanted to get right or avoid getting wrong?
I over prepared for that shit. I had a spreadsheet. I had answers I thought would happen. I thought I had follow-up questions. I interacted with the community a lot. I watched all the other interviews because I didn't want to get any repeat stuff going on during that one. I wanted to make sure that I either got new information or treaded new ground. That's what I really wanted to focus on. And thankfully, we were able to do that. I did learn to spend a little bit more time on the audio checks when first going into an interview and to not interrupt the interviewer with positive affirmations because it's a shit experience for viewers. I didn't realize that because when I talk in real life, like, you know, behind there, I'm in meetings like all day and it's usually one-on-one and we have conversations. So I'm constantly butting in and saying, yeah, that makes sense to encourage people to keep talking. Bad experience for the viewers, or at least most viewers, because I think 50% of the comments weren't on the content of the interview, but like, bro, the interview was good, but why the hell are you talking so much? What's going on? Did not realize it while it was happening because I turned off the chat. I didn't want to see the chat. I think I should have the chat on next time.
Oh, that's
Maybe
that
have
would
like a
scare me more
trusted
than anything.
moderator.
Turning off the chat would scare me more than anything. I can't even do this podcast without both chats open. My 2 screens right now are my own chat because sometimes people type to me in there even when I'm offline. The YouTube chat, the Twitch chat for the stream, and my Discord.
Oh my God.
I'm reading all of the things.
I was so nervous. Like my mods were messaging me. I feel so bad. Like they were trying to fix it. I was not looking at Discord. I was literally only paying attention. Because I was so nervous, like I still couldn't believe that they reached out and had me do that. Like my channel is tiny. Like Josh has 4 YouTube channels that are massive. You know, Zizarin did an interview. All these people. They just gave me a chance. It's very nice of them to do that. But yeah, I was just nervous. So
I can give you a very cool suggestion.
Okay.
On how to handle that if it ever happens again.
Okay.
Which is. One of the things that you can do is you can actually have like a shared Google Doc.
Yeah, that's
and
what I
have
was gonna
it
say.
be the only thing that's open. What you have is your mods or your mod team have access to that. They're the ones that are trolling chat, looking at things. They're the ones that are reading things so you don't have to. And what happens is either comments from chat that they deem important enough for you to see, or notes for you to like help answer questions or lead you in a direction that's different, show up in that Google Doc that they have live shared access to. And that's the only thing you have to read. That way it's all curated specifically. It doesn't take too much of your time, and the people you trust are the ones monitoring that. And then they're there to watch the live streams. They're there to do all of the chat interactions, and they just forward the little things that you need to you during the conversation.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
And as well as that, the counterparties to the interview, they can have handlers also checking that if there's stuff that needs to be redacted, like if there's topics that are like, yeah, we can't talk about that, then you can avoid asking a question where that comes up.
Exactly. That's a great idea. Man, I had a Google Doc that I was reading out of the entire time. Oh, that would have been awesome. Dang it. Great idea, you guys. Thank you.
Well, to be fair, I think we also picked that up somewhere else, right? Like, was it Josh Strife Hayes who did that for his interview, or like someone else said that they have a
I don't remember
Google Doc
where I heard that, but I heard it
Ziz
several
has that.
years ago from some content creator somewhere, and was like, "Yep, that's exactly how I'm always going to handle anything like that."
Well,
And
I
then
mean,
I forget where I heard it from though. I heard it from someone. It's not like my idea; it's someone's idea, but it's great.
I think there's a dev in the chat saying that's how they do it with Ziggy during the live streams.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Ziggy's the one who told me that idea, well, not me specifically, but like mentioned. I actually don't know where it came from.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'll do it next time if there's a next time.
Probably just best practice in general.
It's
like one of those things that a lot of the people that get into content creation do it by accident, not with some degree of substantial training for it. And that means that you start working these things out, but you can also just copy what people that do things much more professionally, like content creation done much more professionally, for example, by live television. You can take some of the things that they've learned over the years.
Right. Yeah, it's learning so much. Like the past 3 months especially, I've just been learning little stuff like lighting and different edits and everything. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing with my lighting, honestly, but I have ring lights now, and I don't have this giant sunlight that's coming down from the ceiling anymore, which seems a little bit better. But it's just incrementally learning. It's really fun. It's good.
Yeah, ring lights are one of those things. Like I had them blaringly bright for a period, and that was a huge mistake. That would tire me out so quickly.
Right.
Eventually, I realized that it's better to go 10% worse quality, but be able to tolerate it. Because I'd done a promo with people that did blue light glasses, and I had to wear them all the time. Though during that period where the brightness was up so high on my light, like sort of like that.
Oh, no! That's too bright.
That is unbearable to have.
Yeah.
For any period of time.
Can't
just
do
get it down to minimum or minimum +1 is where I want it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, which is, I have a similar thing. I used to have a green screen background and like all the proper photo lighting in front of me, but it just, like you said, it made me too tired, and like it drained me, but at the same time, it also kept me awake at night. Whereas like you sitting on the computer, like I don't feel quite tired yet. Let's just do another map, right? And it got more tempting. I mean, these are also blue filter glasses, but I don't know, maybe there's enough on the sides that comes in or whatever. But yeah, I feel much better now. However, I do have the light coming from the top, which makes my forehead super shiny. So I have to wear a beanie or this thing, because otherwise it's like too bright on there. So I'm definitely in the future upgrading the lighting solution.
Yeah.
Biggest thing I had to learn was sound, and also de-umming and de-arring videos. Like if I do a take of a video, normally it'll be 60% longer than what actually goes up live, because there'll be sections that I don't like what I've done, and rather than stop the entire video and restart, it's just now I've just gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I screwed up that sentence. Let's stop that sentence. Repeat that sentence, and all of the sorts of dead air in that I'm able to now just delete. And people will notice that, like, I've sort of made a meme out of it lately, where if I'm editing a video, I'll often, if I'm coming back later to edit it, I'll often wear something different, and then I'll re-record sections and cut it in. And that's just become something that happened by accident once. I think I'd been wearing a jumper, then I'd gone to the gym and come back, and I was just like steaming as a result of having been exercising. And so there was no way I was putting the jumper back on. And then people were like, oh, look at the crazy shirt changes. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that's going to be a meme. I'll start doing that more often deliberately.
Yeah.
It drives up the engagement rate. All for that sweet, sweet engagement.
Oh yeah. So good.
Oh, you spend way too much time looking at YouTube analytics.
Shirt
Yeah,
meme
that's
videos
true.
versus non-shirt meme videos. You got to do the comparison now, you know?
Yeah. And people always ask, do I just wear the bright shirts for the channel? And it's like, until I was 35, I always wore black.
Yeah.
And then I realized one day, why do I do this? And then bought a bright shirt and never looked back. So
Yeah.
like, no, I actually do. Like if I was to go to a karaoke bar,
There you
I'll
go.
often be wearing something like exactly this shirt.
Nice, nice. Hell yeah. Love it.
Mine's the same story. I was like a tradesman until I was like 29 or something, and it was just like black t-shirts or black button-ups, jeans. That's it. Like that was just it's so boring stuff. And then now I'm wearing like shirts with ducks with space helmets on them, and like all this sort of stuff. And it's because I started streaming, but it's not because of streaming. It's because now that streaming is my living, I can do whatever the fuck I want with how I dress, which means I now get to have colored hair, which I always wanted but never did. I get to paint my nails now, which I always wanted to but never did, because I'm a tradesman. And you couldn't go to a trade in Australia with painted nails. That's just not on the cards. But now I can do whatever I want.
I reckon if you were in Brunswick or Newtown and you were a plumber, that'd be like
my trade was especially bad and miserable. There's a reason I wouldn't go back even for $100 an hour now. That's not the environment that I could have done that in. Is enough information.
Well, I'm glad you get to do it now.
Well,
yeah, I mean, we're solidly over the 2-hour mark. I don't want to like open another big topic. Maybe was there anything else that you wanted to point out, Try, for the interview that you would want to give other people as advice to make the next interview even better? And or who from GGG would you love to get the opportunity to interview next, and why?
Ooh, what a question. My advice is to always make the interview about the interviewee. That's something actually initially that I was not liking about Josh's interview, because I thought he was like a lot of the focus compared to Jonathan. But I thought he did a really good job of that, considering what the interview turned out to be. I think only a very select group of people can pull that off. I could not pull that off. And if you get the opportunity to interview someone like Jonathan, you want him to talk 95% of the time. And the only time you're talking is when you're prodding him, asking him a question, or interjecting with positive affirmation, something like that. So that's my best advice. Let the interviewee speak most of the time. And then someone I'd want to interview most, I mean, the number one answer is Chris, but I don't know how, if that's going to happen, because it looks like he's taken a little bit of a step back when it comes to the public-facing role that he used to have. So I think next after that would probably be Rishi. Even though I'm not like really in depth in all the mechanics, I have a broad understanding, and I think I could ask him a lot of cool questions that he would dive into about items and design and all that. I think he'd be an awesome person to talk to. So
he was gonna be my answer too, because talking to him and listening to him speak at ExileCon, I don't know how to say that. I don't know if this sounds insulting. I definitely don't mean it to be insulting. He has like a childlike excitement all the time when he's talking about anything. Like he's just excited to be there and talk about it, and it is infectious.
Yeah, he's very bubbly.
Yeah, like he's just excited, and it's great.
I probably want to say I see that because that's my big part of why I'm in love with GGG so much. I see that in every one of them front facing, but I think with Rishi it breaks out the most, right? And then also, just like you saw him at ExileCon, I met him at Gamescom and I was able to exchange a few words in person. He did recognize me as the guy that does organize this podcast, and yeah, he seemed very eager to come on at some point in the future. All he said is awesome. Ultimately it's up to Chris, right? But we'll see.
Yeah.
That would be super cool. Yeah, I also think Rishi is great because he does a lot of the unique design, and he's also the guy who like did the ruthless development. So yeah, there's tons of, and he is an archmage enjoyer. So
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and like, of course, in our Discord chat organizing this FATED, this is an exact copy paste from it. You know, it's me saying, this makes me think, have you ever tried to get Harishi onto FATED? Harishi from GGG, that is. And that was me saying that to Catmaster before I knew that he had.
yeah.
So, yeah, like, I mean,
we know it can happen, right? We had the Rishi and Jonathan interview with Cizeron, and Rishi has also been on the Wrecker of Days and Tags, the Forever Exiled.
Yeah, Forever.
Yeah. At least
I'd
once,
love
probably
to
even multiple times.
He'd be my first pick at GGG, I think.
Oh shit!
Given that Chris would be harder to get.
He would be. Yeah. Chris, though, shout out to Chris. I don't know if I should say this or not, but I asked him to record a line for my build starter or my league starter build video this league, and he did it for me. He recorded the line. I've captured you, stupid beast, because I did a stupid skit at the beginning of it where I was breaking into the GGG headquarters, and I was like, "Hey, man, I just did the Chris at GGG email." I was like, "Hey, could you record this line for me? It'd be so awesome to do it." And he actually did it. And I think everyone thought it was AI and nobody commented on it, but that was actually Chris Wilson. So shout out to Chris. He's awesome.
That's honestly, that's the worst part of AI is like not actually people being able to do like photorealistic stuff and fake stuff with AI, but no one taking real images and real videos as an actual thing anymore because everyone's just, oh, that's AI, oh, guaranteed AI. Although the boomers on Facebook are exactly the opposite. They're eating up every AI post of those like African children building tanks from water bottles and stuff, right?
Oh, they are.
Yeah. And that said, I don't know if you've seen the Azaro saying the Navy SEALs copy pasta that did the rounds a while ago. This was like someone trained one of those AI voices on Azaro.
Dude, you got to send it to me. You got to send this.
Yeah, I'll send it in the Discord chat. Yeah, like there's some really stupid stuff that goes around.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't actually think it was as good in quality as some. Like you wouldn't think it was necessarily correct, but that it was real.
I need a Zaro to just read shit off for me though. Oh my god. Oh.
Could you imagine a Zaro voice GPS?
Oh, that'd be so good. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
It's up there with the one that I always wanted back years and years ago was Alan Rickman as Severus Snape.
There you go. It's going to be possible, I'm sure, eventually.
That's like really condescending GPS. Anyway. It's like...
I mean, it's all possible. Give it 5 or 10 years, and you just pop that into an AI prompt request, and it just is done perfectly.
Yeah,
I personally
I'd rather
wait.
It was done for obviously Rickman's not with us anymore, but the Azaro voice actor I assume probably is. So if they ever want to put out a GPS, I'll definitely buy it.
Fair enough.
Ditto.
That doesn't take long and it will be indistinguishable. I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate that we are losing so many legendary voice actors and actors in general, but one day I'm sure the AI will be good enough that's almost indistinguishable.
Yeah. One question that I like, if it sounded like you were sort of looking at some final thoughts. One question that I did want to ask is what people think of multi-boss uniques like the Adorned and the Utmost. Like where you get rare drops from multiple different bosses, combine them together into one highly RNG unique.
I like the idea practically with the Adorned right now. I feel like we're sitting in our private league on a lot of fragments from Delve, like from the Val Architect and from the Val Temple maps, but not so many from Adziri. But maybe just the reality of what people like to run. But it seems like the ones from Uber Adziri, or I think also Temple Adziri drops it apparently from the Val Temple, from Alpha Temples. Yeah, so I guess people are skipping that one as well. And right now in this league, it's really unattractive to be out of maps. So maybe people aren't just doing that many Ubers, right? So maybe it can be accounted for that way. But
in Trade League, it's Ahua Totli's one that's the rare one.
okay.
And the other one that's quite rare is just because the drop rate is so low from the Val Omnitect. The Val Omnitect in Incursion tier 13 plus is required for it to drop, but that drop is rare, whereas the other ones are just uncommon.
I really like the idea of them in Trade League. I think in SSF they're probably a pain because it's going to be really hard to ever get an actual good one. But in Trade, they don't. Yeah, you can't even play. You can't plan your build around them. But in Trade, I'd probably never get a good one. But it's nice to hear the extra tink when I kill a boss. So I am pro.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah,
I like them as a way to incentivize doing bosses that otherwise might have fallen off in interest.
Smart.
And I think it was the Utmost. I don't really like the design of the Utmost as an item. I feel like it's just for incoherent stats. But the core idea of it is just brilliant for making it so that all these bosses will always have a use.
That's right.
I like to see them on other bosses as well.
Yeah.
Like imagine if the 3 different level 83 labs each dropped a fragment that then combined together to be some specific unique.
That is a super cool idea.
Yeah.
Uber Giga Lab.
Yeah.
There are still 3 different labs. Item level 83. Really? Oh, I thought they got rid of those when. Oh, oops.
Tribute Lab drops Grand Spectrums much more often in the Silver Key chest specifically. The Dedication Lab allows you to do some limited modification of corrupted gems, aka source your Val Cold Snaps from Divination cards, so 2120 Val Cold Snap card, take it in and try and turn it into a transfigured, into a blue random transfigured gem. And if it ends up as a Val one, that could be very, very good. And there's also the third one is Gifts to the Goddess, which is like one of those really well-kept secrets at the moment. There are 2 jackpot rewards Gifts to the Goddess give you. So you get 6 crafts in total, but the first one is an Uber craft. It has about a 30% chance to be transfigure a support gem into a random exceptional gem. And it has about a 1% chance to be transfigure a support gem into a random... transfigure a support gem into the awakened version of that gem.
Wow.
AKA multi-strike to awaken multi-strike, or echo to spell to Uber echo, whatever it is that's the most valuable at the time. You're not going to see that craft very often, but getting Enhanced Enlighten Empower, it is the best way to get Enlighten Empower Enhanced now is to do gift slabs.
Got it. Okay. Nice.
You only get 1 of these crafts, and it's only a 30% or so. May not even be 30%. That's just a smallish sample size that got that. But it's, it definitely does drop a fair bit.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, nice. I need to target that and get my Enlighten.
Yeah, it should take you 10 gift slabs on average, which is a lot. But if you're in a private league that has, I don't know how many players you've got in yours.
20-ish.
If a few of them are willing to spec the Atlas node for Trial of Glory, I think it's called, and you only go in if it's an Uber token. You don't go in if it's a level 75 token.
Yeah, the improved offerings or the improved trials are still relatively rare. I had it on one of my main trees, like spec for the entire league, and had like 2 or 3 in total of the.
You should get one every time you fight the Exarch, roughly. If you are mapping Exarch.
It does feel like 1 out of every 30 or so maps, roughly.
Crazy.
Of course, it's pain when you get one and it's tribute, and if you're I don't know what Grand Spectrums are worth at the moment, but if Grand Spectrums are cheap, you check the div card for them. It's Divine Justice, isn't it? Oh no, Grand Spectrums are an average of 5 div at the moment.
Damn, pretty good.
All right, yeah, thanks for bringing that to our attention. And I really like the suggestion of like having a combined unique from those Uber labs. That is actually a super cool idea to tie that content together and give it more relevance, I guess, than it has right now. Is there anything that you guys still want to bring up before we close out? I really don't want to go past the 2.5 hour marks. I'm very respectful of you guys' time, and I know that these podcasts, I mean, while they're fun and it's easy to forget the time into them, they're also quite draining, and we all have other things that we still need to do, I assume.
Nah. Yeah, I'm gonna play 20 minutes of PoE, 20 minutes of No Rest for the Wicked, and then I'm gonna play PoE. So I don't know if you guys are gonna try that out. Yeah, it came out today. I haven't looked at anything. I have no idea if people hate the game, love the game, but trying that out.
I applied and I got a key, actually.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I couldn't afford it. I didn't even know where to apply. But Torchlight Infinite launches today too. And that's been very fun. So I'm going to be doing that probably today.
That game actually feels really good. I played it a little bit. It feels great.
You have to first get over the visual of it looking like a shit mobile game, but as soon as you get over the visual of the UI, it's actually great.
Yep, I totally agree. I played the dude with the big sword. That's pretty, I don't know what the fuck his name is, but he's fun.
Well, and I can't wait to be able to talk about those things when we reconvene. Thank you guys for joining. Everyone in chat, thanks for watching the entire time. If you missed the beginning, you can rewind. This is available in full on YouTube. You can check it out on Spotify as a video and all the other podcast platforms as audio. If you want to play in a fresh private league with some fun treasure hunt goals, you want to go to sirgog's YouTube video and the link that we put into the description, so you can join the toucan treasure hunt. And if you haven't seen it yet, definitely check out TalkativeTri's video with Jonathan Rogers for Path of Exile 2. It's a very good one. And we have another episode planned. That's the one thing I still need to segue into, and that is Saturday apparently is 42024, so I threw together a spontaneous 420 episode with Trixt and Velena, and with Dreadful is also coming again, because Dreadful has previously only been on Last Epoch episodes, and now we get to talk PoE with Dreadful, and I'm super curious about Dreadful's PoE takes and how he relates to Epoch. That episode is a little bit too early for Balor, so Balor will be sitting that one out. It's like super early for you in the day. It's like 2 or 3 hours earlier than our usual ones. But we'll be back with Balor the weekend after that, most likely. And I'll keep you posted on my social media. Now, 2 more M's, and then the podcast is over. Where's the thing? Here. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye. Enjoy your private league fun or whatever you're up to, and we'll see you for the next episode.
I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.